Chapter 113. Why did you leave her alone outside? Bailey Han's deep and cold eyes flashed with anger. You knew that she could be in danger at any time. Mika Keto clenched her fists and said with a cold face, "What happened today was my fault. It won't happen again." He thought that he could rush back to accompany her before her drug addiction kicked in, but he didn't expect that God's plan would be different. Bailey Han glanced in the direction of the bathroom and said in a low voice, "I'll bring the antidote tomorrow." Mika Keto interrupted him. "No need. The antidote has already been flown over from Japan. It will arrive tonight." Bailey Han sneered, "I thought double insurance would be safer." His words showed that he didn't trust him. Mika Keto's face darkened and the temperature around her dropped sharply. In the end, Mika Keto reluctantly compromised. Although it was embarrassing to compromise with a love rival, for Xiaodong's safety, double insurance was more reliable. When they returned to the kindergarten, Su Yunqian had already turned from an elegant goddess to a wounded patient. Her wrist was wrapped in thick gauze and her calf was bruised. When she saw Bailey Han, Su Yunqian immediately threw herself at him and sobbed. Bailey Han frowned. "Why are you hurt? Is it serious?" Bailey pursed his lips. What a pretentious girl. On the other side, Su Yunqian was crying. Xiaodong didn't want to make things difficult for her in front of her, so she and Beitang Shen took the children home. Xiaodong's uncomfortable excuse could fool Xiao Guai, but it couldn't fool Xiao Bao. At night, Xiao Bao puffed up his cheeks and climbed into her bed. He said seriously, "Mom, are you hiding something from me? Why did you suddenly feel unwell at the garden party?" Xiaodong touched his head and said, "Son, I am indeed hiding something from you, but it's a good thing." "What is it?" Xiaodong smiled and said, "I'm pregnant. Your revenge plan is already half successful, aren't you happy?" Xiao Bao's eyes widened. "Mom, are you pregnant?" "Yeah. If you're pregnant, your entire body will tremble and you can't even walk properly?" She nodded firmly. "Of course. Back then, when I was pregnant with you and Gigai, I had a stronger reaction than this." She made up a lot of lies and finally managed to fool him. After leaving the kindergarten, Bailey Han drove Su Yunqian to the hospital. The examination confirmed that her wrist was severely sprained and she needed to rest for a week. Su Yunqian gritted her teeth in hatred. Damn it, it was all because of those two brats that she sprained her left wrist. She would take her revenge after she married Bailey Han. When they returned to the villa, Bailey Han personally opened the car door for her and helped her upstairs. Su Yunqian leaned into his arms, weak and weak. She bit her red lips and hesitated to speak. "Han, you said you would explain." Bailey Han held her shoulders, his handsome face serious and serious. "Yunqian, something happened to Xiaodong. You can understand it this way. She's sick. When she's sick, her symptoms are quite scary. I didn't want to scare others, so I sent her home." "Sick? It should be the drug addiction acting up." Su Yunqian sneered in her heart, but her face showed some uneasiness. She said, "Her illness isn't serious, right?" Bailey Han's eyes darkened and his voice was calm. "It's not serious." Su Yunqian lay in his arms and smiled brightly. "That's good. You don't blame me?" Bailey Han stroked her long hair. "Of course. I was so angry at that time. I thought you and her had an ambiguous relationship." Su Yunqian looked up at him coquettishly and poked his chest with her uninjured hand. "Tell me the truth. How do you know so much about her? Is there really nothing between you two?" Bailey Han looked down at her slender fingers. His long eyelashes covered the complicated look that flashed across his eyes. He held her hand and said in a low voice, "Since I've decided to spend the rest of my life with you, how can I have an ambiguous relationship with another woman?" Su Yunqian chuckled and lay on his chest. Her heart was bitter. What he felt for her was no longer love, but responsibility. As long as they didn't get married, she wouldn't be at ease. A ruthless look flashed across her eyes. Since that B*T Xiaodong was back, she had to start the follow-up plan. Mika Keto had been tracking down the people who kidnapped Xiaodong and the mastermind behind it. He suspected that the mastermind behind this incident was the same person who had released the video last time. After sending Xiaodong and the children home, he returned to his villa. His tall body leaned against the sofa and he asked Jiang Dao coldly, "How did it go?" "According to the description of the villagers in Kiligu, I drew the portraits of the two human traffickers." Jiang Dao unfolded a picture in his hand and showed it to Beitang Shen as he explained, "The traffickers are a man and a woman. The man is around 30 years old, with a height of 175 to 180 centimeters, and he's slightly plump. The woman is also about 30 years old, 165 to 170 centimeters tall, and average-looking. She doesn't have any special features. Mika Keto glanced at the drawing and sneered. Jiang Dao, as a professional killer, will you show your true face when carrying out a mission? Jiang Dao shook his head honestly. No. Mika Keto's slender fingers tapped on the drawing. So they also concealed their true faces. The only thing we can find out is their height. Jiang Dao's eyes flashed and he suddenly said, that man is left-handed and likes to chew gum. The villagers said that he never stopped chewing from the moment he got off the car until he left. Mika Keto tapped her fingers even faster. We can deduce two things. First, he has this hobby. Second, he is trying to quit smoking. His face darkened and he said, now that we have narrowed down the scope of our search, make a list of his characteristics and ask our friends in the underworld. I want to get the news as soon as possible. Yes. Jiang Dao bowed and left. Mika Keto called Lu Xing in. Lu Xing had handsome features, but his expression was cold. He stood straight with his hands behind his back. Mika Keto looked at him and said in a low voice, Lu Xing, I'll give you one more chance. Protect Xia Dong 24/7. If she gets hurt again, you don't have to come and see me again. Understood. Lu Xing bowed stiffly. At the Su family's villa, Su Xingchen leaned comfortably on the soft bed. There were more than 10 pictures on the mattress in front of her, all of which were secretly taken when Xia Dong's drug addiction kicked in. Her lips curved into a strange smile. In this world, there was no impenetrable castle. She only spent a sum of money to kidnap the son of Xia Dong's nanny and made the nanny Gigai work for her. She raised her eyebrows. If she wanted to use Xia Dong to control Su Yunqian, she had to let Brother Han know that Su Yunqian was behind the kidnapping of Xia Dong. When Brother Han saw through Su Yunqian's true colors, would he still love her? Su Xingchen chuckled. She changed her SIM card and dialed a number. She laughed coquettishly. Godfather, it's so late and you're still awake? A man's low voice came from the other side of the phone. My precious goddaughter is looking for me. Even if I'm asleep, I have to wake up quickly. Su Xingchen rolled on the bed and laughed heartily. Godfather, you're so good to me. I like you the most. She kissed the man on the phone screen twice. Godfather, are the two killers you arranged for Su Yunqian reliable? The man was in his 40s and had a handsome face. He looked calm and capable, and there was an unfathomable shrewdness in his deep eyes. He laughed softly. Of course they're reliable. What? Are you going to reel in the net? Su Xingchen pouted. Of course. Otherwise, the man I love will be snatched away by her. The man shook his head and looked at her affectionately. What's so good about Bailey Han that you treat him like this? Why don't Godfather introduce you to a few outstanding men? She stuck out her tongue. I don't want them. I like him. Okay. As long as you like him. Godfather will definitely help you get him. I like Godfather the most. Godfather, I think Mika Keto will find some clues soon. Don't forget to give him some hints. The man smiled gently. Godfather knows what to do. She acted coquettishly for a while more before hanging up the phone. She rolled around on the bed happily. Having learned her lesson from the day before, Xia Dong did not dare to delay after work. She got into the car that Mika Keto had sent to pick her up and went to Mika Keto's villa. She left the task of picking up the children to Jiang Dao. At the same time, Bailey Han was holding a department meeting. When it was close to 6 o'clock, he looked up from time to check the time. The marketing director was writing a long report on the market development. Bailey Han knocked on the table and interrupted him. That's all for today's meeting. Redo your report. I want concise and comprehensive data, not long and flowery words. When Bailey Han rushed to Mika Keto's villa with the antidote, Xia Dong's drug addiction had already kicked in. She had already taken the antidote from Japan, but it could not completely remove the toxins in her body. It could only temporarily suppress the effects of the drug. Although she still felt terrible, she was much better than before. She could even joke around. With a pale face she said, Brother Shen, it looks like I'll have to be your slave in my next life to repay you for saving my life. Mika Keto ruffled her hair and said in a hoarse voice, You don't have to be my slave. As long as you repay me with your body, I'll be grateful. Xia Dong laughed. Brother Shen, your Chinese is better than mine. You're fluent in idioms. Mika Keto hugged her and whispered, Don't say anything if you're feeling terrible. My heart aches when I see you like this. Bailey Han stood at the door. He suddenly felt that he was unnecessary. He put the antidote on the shelf at the entrance and turned to leave without saying goodbye. Xia Dong looked over Mika Kito's shoulder and saw Bailey Han's back. Under the setting sun, she felt inexplicably lonely. When Mika Kito heard the footsteps, he naturally knew that Bailey Han had come. When he heard the footsteps leave, he ruffled Xia Dong's hair and said softly, "You did it on purpose. I just don't want to owe him anything. I already owe him too much." Xia Dong didn't look too good. She leaned into his arms tiredly. Mika Kito's gaze was deep and sharp. "In my opinion, he's the one who let you down." Xia Dong smiled bitterly. "Brother Shin, what happened back then wasn't what you think. He didn't let me down. He just wanted me to fulfill my promise. It was my promise that if I gave birth to a son, I would hand him over to Bailey's family to raise." Every time they talked about this issue, she would say the same thing. When he asked her for the reason, she wouldn't say anything. A hint of bitterness flashed across Mika Kito's eyes, but he still had a gentle smile on his face. "Forget it. Let's not talk about those unhappy things. Yesterday Xiao Bao won the first prize of the garden party. I promised to take him and Xiao Guai to Rome to visit Godfather during the summer vacation." Xia Dong was worried. Can Xiao Guai's body take it? Attention, Song Shu 566. Chapter 114. Mika Kito stroked her hair. "I was just about to discuss this with you. I want to take you to Rome to nurse your baby and Xiao Guai to stay in Rome for treatment. Let's get away from this troublesome place. What do you think?" Xia Dong bit her lip. "Brother Shin, let me think about it. I've thought about going to Rome to nurse my baby after I successfully stole the seed. But now, my career has just started and I suddenly realized that my existence can change the fate of many people. My job has become more meaningful. Frankly speaking, I don't want to leave. Most importantly, my family and friends are all here." "I know all this. We're just staying in Rome temporarily. We'll come back after you give birth and Xiao Guai recovers." Xia Dong hesitated. "Brother Shin, I want to think about it again." "Okay, think about it carefully. No matter what decision you make, I'll support you." "Brother Shin, thank you." "Silly, I've said before that I don't want to hear those words." Xia Dong's eyes were full of smiles. "I'll remember it. You're welcome." Mika Kito looked down at her smile. His eyes were full of smiles and doting. Mika Kito's investigation soon came to a conclusion. Jiang Dao entered the office with 2 photos. "Boss, we found out the identities of the killers. The man's nickname is White Tiger, and he's good at disguising and escaping. The woman's nickname is Suzaku, and she's ranked 3rd on the list of killers in a city. Suzaku and White Tiger have been partners for many years. One is responsible for killing and the other is responsible for escaping. They've never failed." Mika Kito picked up the 2 photos on the table. White Tiger's face was covered by a beard. His shrewdness could only be seen through his cold and cunning eyes. As for Suzaku, she really didn't look like a killer. She was beautiful, charming, and eye-catching. But, like Poppy, the more charming she was, the more dangerous she was. Mika Kito's lips curved into a cold smile. His voice was bone-chilling. "I want all their information, including their 3 generations of ancestors. I'll give you 2 days to find them. This time I'll find out who's behind this." Mika Kito's people were busy searching for White Tiger and Suzaku's whereabouts. Su Yunxian did not stay idle either. She bribed one of Su Yunxian's private investigators and passed the photos of Xia Dong's drug addiction to Su Yunxian. Of course, Su Yunxian would not miss this opportunity to destroy Xia Dong. She used an overseas server to upload the photos online. As soon as the photo was released, Beitang Shin's men discovered it. Ever since the video incident, they had been keeping a close eye on the internet, waiting for the mastermind to show his tail. With sufficient preparation, they weren't in a hurry. Before the photo was released, they had already controlled the situation and tracked the mastermind's tracks. 2 days passed. Mika Kito was having a meeting at Bo Ao Group. Jiang Dao suddenly walked up to him and bent down to whisper something in his ear. Mika Kito's lips curved into a strange smile. He stood up in a good mood. "Today's meeting is over. Thank you for your hard work." Everyone was flattered and stood up. "Thank you for your hard work, President." Mika Kito straightened his suit jacket and strode out. He exuded a domineering aura. As he walked past, the employees made way for him and bowed their heads respectfully. Jiang Dao followed closely behind. After leaving the building, Jiang Dao jogged to the car and opened the door for him. Mika Kito walked in and asked, "Where are they now?" "I just brought them back to the villa at Repulse Bay." Mika Kito patted Jiang Dao's shoulder and smiled eerily. "Jiang Dao, you did well." Jiang Dao's heart skipped a beat. Boss's devilish smile was on his face. Someone was going to be in trouble? Repulse Bay Villa was another villa owned by Mika Kito. As it was far from Xiaodong's house, he rarely stayed here. There were no large groups of servants in the villa. There was only a deaf and mute old man in charge of cleaning and feeding the dog. Mika Kito went straight to the basement. To be more precise, it was a prison cell. As soon as he entered the basement, the strong smell of blood mixed with the stench of decay hit him in the face. It was nauseating. Under the glaring light, 2 badly mutilated bodies were tied to the wall by iron chains. Their faces were stained with blood. Judging from their figures, the one on the left was a man, and the one on the right was a woman. Seeing Mika Kito enter, someone immediately pushed a chair over and placed it 5 meters away from the 2 men. Mika Kito sat down and crossed his arms. He looked at the 2 men with an expressionless face. White Tiger, Suzaku, I'm sorry to interrupt your trip to Vanuatu. Let's talk about the case you recently took on. Jiang Dao walked over to them with Xiaodong's photo and showed it to them. Mika Kito said coldly, "You touched my woman. I want to know who your employer is." White Tiger spat out the bloody gum in his mouth and grinned. "You've got the wrong person. We don't even know her." Mika Kito's sharp gaze swept over. White Tiger, real name Li Hu, 32 years old, has committed 45 crimes. Murder, kidnapping, theft, and trafficking of women. Jiang Dao, tell me, what kind of punishment will such a sinful person receive? Jiang Dao spat out 2 words coldly. Death by shooting. White Tiger laughed. Ever since I chose this path, I've never been afraid of death. Is that so? Mika Kito's lips curled into a cruel smile. I wonder if your parents in your hometown have the same thoughts? White Tiger's blood-stained body froze. Suzaku suddenly sneered. Boss Beideng, you're really something. You even know our background. Then you must know that there are rules in our line of work. We never reveal our employer's information. Her blood-stained face turned to White Tiger and stared at him sharply. White Tiger gritted his teeth and lowered his head. He did not speak. Mika Kito suddenly stood up and walked over to Suzaku. She met his gaze arrogantly, cold and determined. He sneered. Suzaku, no parents. You grew up in an orphanage. You don't seem to have any flaws. Suzaku looked back at him coldly. Mika Kito, I advise you not to waste your time on us. No, why would it be a waste of time? Mika Kito waved his hand. Jiang Dao took out a photo and handed it to Suzaku. She glanced at it and her pupils constricted. Mika Kito observed her reaction and said expressionlessly, She's the director of the orphanage, Lin Qingxiu. She's 54 years old this year. Director Lin said that she still remembers that 25 years ago, she picked up a baby girl who was less than a year old at the entrance of the orphanage. She named the baby girl Lin Wuyu because she hoped that the child could grow up without any worries. Am I right? Suzaku or Lin Wuyu? Suzaku said coldly, so Boss Beiteng is good at telling stories. I'm impressed. Mika Kito pinched her chin. His gloomy eyes were frighteningly cold. My patience is limited. I don't have time to beat around the bush with you. Tell me who the employer is. Otherwise, he glanced at White Tiger coldly, his parents and Director Lin will leave this world before you. Suzaku looked at him with hatred. She gritted her teeth and did not say a word. White Tiger hung his head lifelessly and did not say a word. Very well. It seems that you won't give up until you see the coffin, Jiang Dao. Mika Kito shook off Suzaku's chin and wiped the blood on his fingers with a handkerchief. Jiang Dao waved his hand. Someone came in with a laptop and opened a video file. An elderly couple was tied to a chair. Their mouths were stuffed with rags. They stared at the camera in horror. The camera panned down. A small time bomb was tied to their calves. The timer showed that there was 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 6 seconds left. The ticking sound of the timer rang in the silent room. White Tiger was frightened. He looked at his elderly parents on the screen. His eyes were filled with pain and confusion. The scene changed. The main characters of the video were the children of the orphanage. They were laughing and jumping happily. They pushed the director of the orphanage in front of the camera. The director smiled kindly. Wuyu, I'm relieved to hear that you're doing well. I told you that I shouldn't disturb you. Your friend is very enthusiastic. He insisted that I follow him to stay at your place for a few days. Suzaku slowly closed her eyes and stopped watching the video. Mika Kito said coldly. You have 1 hour and 30 minutes to think. Once the time is up, the bomb will explode and Director Lin will meet with an accident on her way out of the orphanage. After saying this, Mika Kito left with his men without looking back. Only White Tiger and Suzaku were left in the spacious basement. The ticking sound of the time bomb on the laptop could be heard. Drip, 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 drip. The sound of the drip beat on their hearts. Mika Kito looked at the two silent people on the monitor. He leaned back and lay comfortably on the chair. Jiang Dao hesitated for a moment and asked, "Boss, will this trick work?" Mika Kito said coldly, "As long as they have a weakness, it will work. Their family is their weakness." When he was negotiating with them, he could tell that they were cold-blooded but not heartless enough. They couldn't let go of their feelings. "Boss, if they confess, how should we deal with them?" Mika Kito looked at Jiang Dao domineeringly. "What do you think?" No matter what the reason was, anyone who dared to touch his woman must die. Jiang Dao wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He felt that he had asked a stupid question. Time ticked by. Through the monitor, it could be seen that White Tiger was becoming more and more restless. Its slightly plump body was twisting and turning. Although Vermilion Bird was still calm, her clenched fists revealed her nervousness at the moment. 10 minutes left. 5 minutes left. White Tiger finally couldn't take it anymore. He turned to Suzaku. "Suzaku, let's admit defeat." Vermilion Bird's face was covered in blood, and it was already impossible to see her face. She bit her lips tightly, and even when she tasted the taste of blood, she still refused to let go. There were still 3 minutes left. 2 minutes later, the sound of water splashing could be heard in the video. It turned out that White Tiger's parents were so frightened that they lost control of their bowels. White Tiger's shoulders trembled and he shouted, "Mika Kito, I know you're there. Come out. I'll tell you everything. Let go of my parents now." Tick-tock, tick-tock. The timer was still ringing. 1 minute, 50 seconds. White Tiger was on the verge of breaking down. He shouted hysterically, "Mika Kito, let go of my parents. Let them go. I beg you. I'm begging you." 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds. The screen suddenly changed. Principal Lin said goodbye to the children and walked out of the orphanage with her luggage. Not far away, an unlicensed car was speeding in her direction. "Come and see." Songshu 566. Chapter 115. Suzaku's eyes widened in horror as she screamed frantically, I'll talk. Stop. Stop." 2 seconds, 1 second. Just as Director Lin was scared silly by the menacing car, the person beside her pushed her away from the roaring car like lightning. At the same time, the car suddenly turned the steering wheel, turned into a small alley and quickly disappeared. The video cut to White Tiger's parents, and the timer stopped at 0.01 seconds. Although the bomb did not explode, his parents had already fainted from the shock. White Tiger and Suzaku were trembling in fear. Mika Kito's crisp footsteps were heard, and his tall figure appeared in front of them. He said expressionlessly, "You can tell me now. Who ordered you to do this?" White Tiger looked at the computer screen nervously. "Before we tell you, we have to ensure their safety." Mika Kito waved his hand, and Jiang Dao took out his phone and said a few words in Japanese. After a few seconds, a man wearing a mask appeared on the screen. He removed the bomb tied to White Tiger's parents' legs and stuffed something into their mouths. White Tiger looked up at Mika Kito. Mika Kito said indifferently, "Don't be nervous. That drug was only used to make them forget this unpleasant memory." Suzaku sneered. "Erasing their memories and cleaning up the scene without leaving any clues. Mika Kito, you're so smart." Beitang Shin didn't care about her sarcastic tone at all. His gaze fell on her indifferently. "As for your Principal Lin, because an accident almost happened, your friend deeply apologized and asked her to rest for a while before visiting you. Are you satisfied with my arrangements?" "I'm satisfied. I couldn't be more satisfied." Suzaku sighed. "Mika Kito, I admit defeat." Mika Kito leaned back comfortably in his chair. "Very well. Now let's talk about what you know. Remember, don't play any tricks. If I can threaten you once, I can threaten you a second time." White Tiger quickly exchanged glances with Suzaku, and there was a look of submission in his eyes. The Vermilion Bird closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, they were already cold. Under the contrast of the blood that filled her eyes, she appeared extremely cold. She slowly said, "Su Yunqian. I once heard the employer's name from the middleman. Her name is Su Yunqian." Mika Kito's eyes narrowed. "Are you talking about Su Yunqian, the daughter of Su Bolin?" Su Yunqian must be rich to be able to pay 2 million to hire an assassin. There were many people with the same name in this world, but there was only one rich Su Yunqian. Mika Kito narrowed her eyes, and there was a dangerous glint in her eyes. "I want to know more details." Suzaku said, In the beginning, the employer wanted to create an accident to get rid of Miss Xia's baby. White Tiger and I did a lot of things, but Miss Xia was very lucky and escaped all of them. Mika Keto was shocked. Damn it. Only a few people knew about Xia's pregnancy. Where did Su Yunqian find out about it? Did Bailey Han find out? Later, the employer said that she wanted to change the plan. She wanted us to kidnap Miss Xia and sell her to a poor and remote place. Then she would become addicted to drugs. Suzaku narrated the story emotionlessly, but Mika Keto was furious. Su Yunqian was too vicious. Drugs, poverty, and a deformed child. She wanted Xia to live in pain and despair for the rest of her life. He suppressed his anger and stared coldly at Suzaku. Who is your middleman? Suzaku said calmly, I can't say. Mika Keto stared at her coldly. After a few seconds, he suddenly stood up and said coldly, I can let go of the middleman, but I don't believe you. You have to confront Su Yunqian face to face. Okay. Suzaku was relieved that he gave in. If she dared to betray the middleman, she wouldn't be any better than she was now. Mika Keto walked out of the basement and sat in the back seat of the car. He dialed Bailey Han's number. To be honest, he wanted to see Bailey Han's expression when he found out that Su Yunqian was the mastermind. What a pity. As soon as the call connected, Beitang Shin briefly explained the situation. Of course, he did not mention that Xia Dong was pregnant. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. Then Bailey Han said coldly, Yunqian would never do such a thing. Mika Keto sneered. I knew you would say that. So I'll give you and Su Yunqian a chance to argue. I'll take you to see the two killers at 8 o'clock tonight. After hanging up the phone, Bailey Han stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in his office. Looking at the tall buildings outside, he suddenly felt depressed. He didn't believe that Su Yunqian would do such a thing. In his eyes, she had always been elegant and kind. It was impossible for her to do such a vicious thing. Linda, inform all the departments that the afternoon meeting will be postponed to tomorrow. I'm going out. Bailey Han informed Linda through the internal phone. He straightened his coat and walked out quickly. Hello, Mr. Bailey. In the Su group, Su Yunqian's assistant was surprised and stood up to greet him. The director is in a meeting. She'll be back soon. I'll wait for her in the office. Bailey Han's face was cold, and his deep eyes were full of a terrifying aura. No one dared to look at him directly. Okay. The assistant quickly opened the office door. Please come in. What would you like to drink? Coffee or tea? Black coffee, no sugar. Okay, please wait a moment. Su Yunqian walked out of the meeting room. Her left wrist was still bandaged. The assistant hurried forward and whispered, Director, Mr. Bailey has been here for half an hour. He's waiting for you in your office. Su Yunqian raised her eyebrows. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Mr. Bailey said not to disturb your meeting. Okay, I see. Su Yunqian waved her hand, opened the office door and walked in. In the office, Bailey Han stood facing the floor-to-ceiling window with his back to her. His tall and straight body was like a pine tree. She walked forward and hugged him from behind with her right hand. She chuckled and said, Han, why are you here? Bailey Han didn't move and let her hug him. His voice was very calm. Yunqian, I'm here for one thing. Su Yunqian sensed that something was wrong with his mood. She let go of him and walked to his face. She smiled and said, What's the matter? It's about Xia Dong. There was no expression on his face and his voice was very calm, but Su Yunqian felt inexplicably uneasy. He looked at her and continued, A few days ago, Xia Dong was kidnapped and sold to a remote mountain village. Mika Keto caught the kidnappers and questioned them about the mastermind behind the kidnapping. The kidnappers said that they were ordered by you. Su Yunqian suddenly widened her eyes, her astonished expression was completely exposed. How could it be? I wouldn't do such a thing. I don't know any kidnappers. She anxiously grabbed his arm. Han, you have to believe me. I didn't do it. Bailey Han looked at her steadily. Her shock and panic were so real that they didn't seem fake. He slowly held her hand. Of course I believe you. Mika Keto will take us to see the kidnappers at 8 o'clock tonight. At that time you can prove your innocence. She bit her lip and seemed to be so anxious that she was about to cry. But what if they insist that it was me and frame me for this matter? What should I do? Han, I'm so scared. How could this happen? Bailey Han looked into her eyes. If they really framed you, then we'll find the real mastermind behind this. Yunqian, don't be afraid. I'm here. Su Yunqian was touched and threw herself into his arms. Her delicate body trembled slightly. In a place where he couldn't see, A trace of ruthlessness flashed through her beautiful eyes. Damn it, those two stupid killers dared to betray her. She had to quickly think of a countermeasure. After Bailey Han left, Su Yunxian supported her cheek with one hand and looked out of the window expressionlessly, thinking of a countermeasure. Her phone suddenly rang. Her eyes lit up and she smiled as she answered. She said in English, "Darling, how's it going?" The man on the other side of the phone said in a low and magnetic voice, "Don't worry about me. The trap has been dug and we're just waiting for the prey to jump in." Her smile became even brighter. "Very good, darling. I've run into some trouble here. I need to borrow your falcon." "No problem. But you can't let Falcon's identity be exposed. He's my secret weapon." "Don't worry, I just want him to do me a small favor." Falcon was a hacker. He was more powerful than Killer Whale. The difference was that Killer Whale could be bought with money, but Falcon only worked for his master. She had already thought of a way to turn the tables, but the risk was very high. Su Yunxian's lips curled into a strange smile. However, if the risk wasn't high, how could it be exciting? At 8 o'clock in the evening, Jiang Dao drove to the predetermined location and picked up Bailey Han and Su Yunxian. When they arrived at the Repulse Bay Villa, Mika Keto had also just arrived. He had just accompanied Xia Dong through her drug addiction at her house and rushed over. He didn't hide the existence of the basement and directly brought the two of them into the basement. As soon as they walked into the basement, Su Yunxian couldn't help but frown at the unpleasant smell. The light was very glaring, illuminating every corner clearly. Bailey Han glanced at White Tiger and Suzaku, who were chained to the wall. Su Yunxian appeared to be a little timid as she held onto Bailey Han's arm delicately. Bailey Han patted the back of her hand comfortingly, indicating that she shouldn't be afraid. Mika Keto looked meaningfully at Su Yunxian before finally looking at Suzaku. "Suzaku, this is Su Yunxian, Miss Su, the employer you mentioned. Now that she's standing in front of you, what do you want to say to her?" Suzaku was silent for 2 seconds before she said, "Miss Su, I'm sorry. I have to betray you for the people I want to protect." Attention Xingwu 799. Chapter 116. Su Yunxian was stunned. "But I don't even know you. I don't know what you're talking about." Suzaku said, "On June 30th, you issued a mission through a middleman. Within 5 days, you were to create an accident and cause Miss Yadong to lose her child." "Wait a minute. What do you mean by, lose the child?" Bailey Han suddenly interrupted Suzaku. Suzaku was about to answer when Mika Keto beat her to it and said, Xia is pregnant." Bailey Han's eyes narrowed. She was pregnant? Whose child was it? He immediately thought of what happened that night at Charm Club. They didn't take any precautions. Could it be? He was nervous and uneasy, but there was also a hint of anticipation. Damn it, what was he anticipating? He was about to marry Su Yunxian, and she already had a fiancé. Mika Keto seemed to see through his thoughts. She smiled and said, Xia didn't want to have a child so soon. I wanted her to give the baby and Gigai a younger brother or sister. Alright, Suzaku, continue. So it was Mika Keto's child. Bailey Han's nervous fists slowly relaxed, but he felt a little uncomfortable. Su Yunxian was also suspicious. She was originally certain that Xia Dong was pregnant with Bailey Han's child, but after hearing Mika Keto's words, she was a little doubtful. However, she didn't dwell on it for long. She still focused on Suzaku. After the small interlude, Suzaku continued, In the past 5 days we created many accidents, but Miss Xia avoided all of them. After Miss Xia heard this, she changed her plan. She asked us to kidnap Miss Xia and sell her to another province. She also asked the middleman to give us a box of medicine and let us inject it into Miss Xia. Su Yunxian frowned and said, Your name is Suzaku, right? Suzaku, I think what you said is full of loopholes. If I was really the employer, I wouldn't let anyone know my identity. How did you know that I was the employer? Suzaku said, According to the rules of this line of work, killers accept missions through the middleman. They wouldn't know the employer's identity, but I have a good relationship with the middleman, so he felt that it wouldn't matter if he told me. Su Yunxian smiled. Did your middleman tell you the employer's identity before? Vermilion Bird paused. No. Su Yunxian stared into her eyes. Then why did you tell me the employer's identity this time? Don't you think it's strange? Or should I say this is a scam? You want to frame me? Suzaku's voice turned cold. No, the middleman wouldn't do such a thing. In our line of work, reputation is the most important thing. The middleman wouldn't ruin his own reputation. Bailey Han said in a low voice, Who is your middleman? Ask him to come over and explain it clearly. Impossible. Suzaku refused without thinking. I've already reached my limit by betraying the employer. If I betray the middleman, not only will White Tiger and I lose our lives, even our relatives won't have a good ending. Su Yunxian said considerately, since that's the case we won't force you. But you have to show evidence to prove that what you said is true. Suzaku smiled. Miss Su, I remember that you transferred the money to us. Why don't you ask Mr. Beitang to check your account? Su Yunxian smiled. Sure, Mr. Beitang. If you need, I can give you all my bank accounts. There's no need. Mika Kito spat out these 3 words coldly and signaled to Jiang Dao with her eyes. Jiang Dao took out a piece of detailed account information from the folder in his hand. Jiang Dao explained, we checked the account that transferred the money to Suzaku. The person who opened the account is Yi Qing. Miss Su must know her because she's a servant in Miss Su's house. Su Yunxian was shocked. How could this be? Sister Yi wouldn't do such a thing. Mika Kito sneered. Of course Yi Qing wouldn't hire someone to kidnap Xia Xia. It's just that her account was stolen. Su Yunxian said unhappily, what do you mean? Are you suspecting that I used Sister Ye's account? Mika Kito glanced at her coldly. It's not a suspicion. It's the truth. Bailey Han stepped forward and stood side by side with Su Yunxian to confront Mika Kito. Mr. Beitang, since you also said that Yi Qing's account was stolen, that person might not necessarily be Yunxian. Please show us more concrete evidence. Mika Kito's sharp gaze swept over Suzaku. Suzaku bit her lip and her eyes suddenly lit up. There's another way. The small metal box containing the medicine was handed to the middleman by the employer, who then handed it to me. The middleman wore gloves when he handed it to me. Every time I touched it I also wore gloves. If we check for fingerprints we might be able to find the employer. Mika Kito's expression changed. Many people had touched the box, including Wang Fugue and the others who were far away in Chili Valley. If they wanted to check the fingerprints one by one, it would definitely take a long time. Bailey Han also considered this problem and frowned. Is there any other evidence? Suzaku racked her brains but could not think of any other evidence. White Tiger suddenly shouted excitedly, Photo, Miss Ya's photo? Suzaku also became excited after he reminded her. Yes, the middleman gave us a photo of the target and said that it was sent by the employer. There must be the employer's fingerprints on it. Su Yunxian's eyes moved. What photo? She was worried that there would be clues left behind, so she sent an electronic photo to her godfather. How could there be any fingerprints left? Mika Kito asked, Where's the photo? White Tiger quickly said, It's in my bag. The bag White Tiger was talking about was the luggage he carried when he was caught by Mika Kito's men. Hearing this, Jiang Dao immediately ran out of the basement. After a few minutes he came back with his luggage. It's in the innermost pocket. White Tiger felt lucky that he did not throw away Xia Dong's photo. Wearing rubber gloves, Jiang Dao took out Xia Dong's photo from the bag. Mika Kito nodded, and Jiang Dao immediately took the photo to someone to get the fingerprints on it. Mika Kito whispered something to the person next to her. The person immediately put on a pair of gloves and brought over a clean glass. Miss Su, please leave your fingerprints. Su Yunxian looked at Bailey Han awkwardly. Bailey Han comforted her. Yunxian, don't be afraid. Leave your fingerprints. After they compare your fingerprints they can prove your innocence. Su Yunxian gritted her teeth. She felt that this matter was a bit strange. Although she was sure that she did not give her godfather Xia Dong's photo, what if someone framed her and the fingerprints matched? Mika Kito saw her hesitation. She stared at her with sharp eyes like a hawk and said coldly, Miss Su, can I take it that you don't dare to leave your fingerprints because you feel guilty? Of course not. She immediately showed a charming smile. Why wouldn't I dare? I didn't do anything wrong. She elegantly held the glass. Mika Kito sneered and said lightly, Thank you for your hard work today. I'll let you know when the results are out tomorrow. Bailey Han nodded and left the villa with Su Yunxian. He drove her to the door and glanced at her left wrist. Yunxian, how's the injury on your hand? She smiled. It's not very painful. Han, do you want to sit in my room? Bailey Han leaned over and kissed her forehead. No, you're tired. Rest early. Say hello to Uncle and Auntie for me. Okay. She hugged him and said softly, Han, you have to believe me. I really didn't do it. I know. Bailey Han's lips curved. I believe you. He opened the car door for her and held her hand like a gentleman. Go in. Don't think too much. Su Yunxian nodded and waved her hand with a smile. On the other hand, Xiaodong had been able to suppress the drug addiction in her body with the antidote. When the drug addiction kicked in, it was far less painful than before, so she didn't have to find an excuse to sneak out to avoid the children. When the drug addiction kicked in, she locked herself in the room. Mika Kito insisted on accompanying her. She couldn't persuade him, so she had to listen to him. However, she did feel more at ease with him by her side. That day, after Mika Kito accompanied her through the drug addiction, he said that he had something to do and left in a hurry. She didn't ask. After taking a shower, she played with the two little guys on the sofa for a while. She touched Xiao Guai's head and asked, "Gigai, what if mommy takes you to Rome to play with God Grandpa?" Okay. Xiao Guai clapped his little hands happily. "I haven't seen God Grandpa for a long time. I miss him so much. Then let's go to God Grandpa in a few days." Xiaodong thought about Mika Kito's words for a long time and finally made a decision. Someone in City A wanted to harm her. Before she cured Xiao Guai, she'd better leave. Xiao Bao blinked his big eyes. "Mom, how long will we be gone?" Xiaodong smiled. "More than 10 months. Xiao Guai's pink little face immediately fell. "But I can go back to kindergarten in 10 months. I want to go back to kindergarten. I don't want to stay in Rome for so long." Xiaodong rubbed her cheek against her daughter's little face and said with a smile, "Don't worry, mommy will definitely take you back to kindergarten." Xiao Guai pouted. "Then what about brother? Brother only has 2 months of summer vacation." Xiao Bao's mind worked quickly. He soon understood why his mother wanted to take them away for 10 months. It must be to treat Gigai's illness. Thus he shrugged indifferently. "I'm fine. I'll go wherever you guys are. It's the same to study in Rome." Xiao Guai was moved to tears. "Brother, you're the best." Xiaodong ruffled her son's hair. "Son, you're the best." "Mom, don't be like Xiao Guai. I'm going to be shocked to death by you." Xiao Bao shook his little shoulders exaggeratedly and made an expression that said he couldn't stand it. Xiaodong pinched his little face angrily. "Why is it that when I say the same thing it's like thunder rolling in the sky, but when Xiao Guai says it, it makes you so happy?" Xiao Bao rolled his eyes at her. "You're not as cute as Gigai." "Wow, you evil brat." Xiao Guai giggled. Attention Hongcha 866. Chapter 117. Repulse Bay Villa. Mika Kito stared coldly at Su Yunqian. She raised a test report in her right hand and announced the results. "As you can see, the fingerprints on the photo are the same as Miss Su's fingerprints on the glass." "No, that's impossible." Su Yunqian grabbed the test report excitedly and quickly scanned the results. She shook her head in disbelief. "This is impossible. I didn't touch the photo at all and I didn't give it to the kidnappers." "You're framing me?" Yunqian calmed down. Bailey Han comforted her and took the test report from her hand. After reading it carefully, he stared sharply at Mika Kito. "Yunqian's suspicion is right. You asked someone to do this report. Only you know the truth." Mika Kito crossed her arms and sneered. "You think I'm framing Su Yunqian? Why would I do that?" Bailey Han's words were sharp. "I can try to guess that it's because you want to deal with me." Xinghao Group and Bo Ao Group were competitors. It was no secret that Bo Ao Group was against Xinghao Group in every aspect. Mika Kito sneered. "Mixing personal and business matters together? That's not my style. Bailey Han, I'm not you. I won't cancel the contract for personal reasons and cause a loss of 10 million yuan. Mika Kito was directly insinuating that he canceled the advertising cooperation with Glamour magazine because of Xiaodong. Bailey Han's face darkened and he said coldly, "In any case, your report is not convincing. Even if the fingerprints are the same, we can't rule out the possibility that someone framed Yunqian." White Tiger couldn't help but shout, "What do you mean? Suzaku and I have already fallen to this point. Do you think we would lie?" Bailey Han was expressionless. "What you said may be the truth, but you also heard it from the middleman. Can you guarantee that the middleman is telling the truth?" White Tiger was not convinced. "Of course, I know the middleman's character very well. He definitely won't lie." Mika Kito said calmly, "Bailey Han, I didn't expect you to be so biased. Even with scientific evidence you still think it's not enough." He shook his head and showed a regretful expression. "Whether you believe it or not, this report was made by an authoritative organization. I definitely did not interfere. As for the rest, I'll leave it to you to judge." Bailey Han's face suddenly turned ugly. Su Yunqian frowned unhappily and said sternly, "Mr. Baiting, what do you mean?" "Han, believe me. Do you think this is wrong? I didn't do it, so why can't Han believe me?" Mika Kito sneered. Miss Su, you really have a glib tongue. Even in the face of irrefutable evidence, you can still bite back. You, Su Yunqian was so angry that her eyebrows were raised. You're slandering me? Mika Kito stopped smiling and exuded a cold and domineering aura. I'll use facts to tell you whether I'm slandering you or not. Miss Su, don't forget we still have a witness. The godfather, the middleman that Suzaku and the others were talking about. Su Yunqian's eyes flashed with a trace of shock. Although it was just a flash, Mika Kito, who had been watching her closely, still noticed it. He was even more certain that she was the culprit and was determined to expose her true colors. Bailey Han also noticed it. On the way back, Bailey Han didn't say a word until he sent Su Yunqian to the door. He turned to look at her with a calm gaze. Yunqian, I believe Mika Kito's report is correct. The fingerprints on the photo were left by you. Tell me, did you touch that photo? Su Yunqian widened her eyes in disbelief. Her eyes were covered with a layer of mist as she choked and said, You don't believe me. You actually suspect me? His voice was cold. If I didn't believe you, I wouldn't have defended you in front of Mika Kito. Then why did you say that? Su Yunqian's eyes were misty with tears. He frowned. If it's as we guessed and someone deliberately framed you, then the photo might have been tampered with. If you remember when you touched that photo, you might be able to find out who framed you. She secretly breathed a sigh of relief, but her tears fell even harder. I don't know. Maybe I really did touch it. But I really don't remember. She couldn't say that she hired a private investigator to steal the photo, right? But the point was, who stole the photo and gave it to the kidnappers? Did the godfather really betray her? Bailey Han sighed and took out a tissue to wipe her tears. She apologized softly. I'm sorry, Han. I didn't know things would turn out like this. Okay, I'm not blaming you. It's just that Mika Kito won't let it go so easily. I think he'll find the middleman next. Su Yunqian's heart skipped a beat and she asked carefully, Han, if, and I'm saying if, the middleman also proves that I hired someone to frame Xia Dong, will you still believe me? Bailey Han's eyes darkened and he didn't answer immediately. Although he trusted Su Yunqian, he was also rational. Who would go through so much trouble to set up such a trap to frame Yunqian? Moreover, it was such a coincidence to target Xia Dong. Are you starting to hesitate? Su Yunqian didn't get an answer. She bit her lip and said with tears in her eyes, Then I'll admit it. I hate Xia Dong. I hate that she always gets close to you, so I hired someone to frame her. Are you satisfied now? Bailey Han frowned helplessly. Yunqian, what are you doing? I didn't say that I didn't trust you. But you showed it. She didn't give up. He rubbed his eyebrows helplessly. I'm just thinking. Who could possibly want to frame you and Xia Dong? What can the person who framed you get in return? Su Yunqian smiled through her tears. In the basement of the Repulse Bay Villa, Beitang Xin ordered people to release Vermilion Bird and White Tiger from the wall. As soon as the two were released, they fell limply to the ground. They had originally suffered heavy injuries and had been hung for 2 days, so it would be strange if they didn't become limp. I want to make a deal with you. Mika Kito looked at them condescendingly. Tell me the identity of the middleman and I'll spare your lives. Suzaku smiled bitterly. The offer is very tempting, but we can't agree. Then add one more condition. I guarantee the safety of White Tiger's parents and Director Lin. Mika Kito knew what they were most worried about. Suzaku and White Tiger couldn't believe it. They didn't believe that the cruel and cold Mika Kito would let them go. White Tiger gritted his teeth. Why should we believe you? We kidnapped Miss Xia and caused her to become addicted to drugs. Are you really going to let us go? He had already seen that Mika Kito loved Xia Dong deeply. Anyone who dared to hurt her would be tortured miserably. Mika Kito looked indifferent. Do you have any other choice except to believe me? If you don't tell me, you'll die. If you tell me, not only will you survive, but you may also save the lives of your loved ones. They hesitated for a long time, but in the end, their desire to live prevailed. White Tiger's face was ashen as he said, In fact, we don't know the identity of the middleman. We only know that his nickname is Godfather. He has been the contact of all the killers in a city since we started this business. Mika Kito raised his eyebrows. How can we find him? Suzaku leaned weakly against the wall and said, There's a bar called Blue Series. He often lurks there, wearing a mask to mix drinks for the customers. No one has seen his real face. Mika Kito glanced at Jiang Dao, who immediately led his men to the bar called Blue Series. 2 hours later, Mika Kito received a call from him. Blue Series was closed and no one knew where Godfather was. Where else can we find him? Godfather, this person was not simple. Suzaku shook her head. This is the only way to find him. There's only one phone number. She told Mika Kito the phone number. She dialed the number and heard a cold voice. Sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service. Mika Kito looked at her coldly. It's not in service. She smiled mysteriously. It's not in service. Wait for 2 minutes. 2 minutes later, Mika Kito's phone rang. The caller ID was a string of garbled codes and he could not see the caller's number. He answered the call and heard a gloomy voice. I'm Godfather. Mika Kito narrowed his eyes and said slowly, I'm Mika Kito. Godfather sneered. So you're the head of the Yamaguchi gang. Nice to meet you. What can I do for you? Mika Kito said indifferently. I heard you recently accepted a job and the target is my fiancé. Godfather paused and his voice became serious. Yes, I did. What? Are you here to settle the score with me? Mika Kito sneered. I know the rules of the underworld and I won't do anything to you. I just want to know who the employer is. Godfather refused. I won't tell you the employer's name. This is the rule. Mika Kito asked casually. Even if it means becoming the enemy of the entire Yamaguchi gang? Godfather smiled bitterly. Boss Beitang, I'm just trying to make a living. Why do you have to force me? Mika Kito said word by word. Whoever dares to touch my woman and child is courting death. He exuded a cold and murderous aura, and Suzaku and White Tiger couldn't help but shiver. The Godfather was silent for a long time before he said, I can tell you the name of my employer, but you can't let this matter spread out. You can't ruin my reputation, or I'll keep this secret even if I have to die without a burial place. Okay, I promise. Mika Kito said without hesitation. Her name is Su Yunxian. After saying this, the Godfather hung up the phone. After the call ended, Mika Kito also ended the recording on his phone. His lips curved into a sinister smile. Su Yunxian, let's see what else you have to say this time. Welfare Xinwu 799. Chapter 118. Mika Kito played the recorded conversation in front of Bailey Han and Su Yunxian. Although Bailey Han was prepared for it, his expression still changed after hearing it. Su Yunxian jumped up from her seat and screamed, I don't believe it. I'm going to ask Suzaku and White Tiger why they framed me. At this moment, she was the perfect example of a person who had been framed. Bailey Han stopped her. Yunxian, calm down. We'll get to the bottom of this. How can I not be excited? Who is it that framed me? Su Yunxian abandoned all her elegance and pushed Bailey Han's arm in agitation. Han, don't stop me. I have to get to the bottom of this. Mika Kito looked at her coldly. Okay, I'll allow you to interrogate them. I'll go with you. Bailey Han frowned and followed Su Yunxian. Mika Kito watched them walk to the basement coldly. Jiang Dao whispered, Boss, should we follow them? No need. Let's go to the monitoring room. In the monitoring room, Mika Kito sat in front of the monitor and saw Su Yunxian angrily questioning Suzaku and White Tiger. The surveillance camera had a 360-degree view without any blind spots. He could clearly see the anger on her face. At the same time, he could also see Bailey Han's cold expression. The screen suddenly flashed. White lines flashed across the screen and covered the entire screen in waves. The people on the screen were all blocked. What's going on? Mika Kito frowned and patted the monitor. It's probably broken. Jiang Dao wiped the sweat on his forehead and hurriedly called the technicians over. In the basement, Su Yunxian sternly questioned Suzaku and White Tiger. They calmly said that they didn't frame her and were just telling the truth. She casually glanced at the time on her wrist. Suddenly, she pounced on Suzaku as if she had gone crazy. Bailey Han hurriedly stepped forward and held her shoulders to calm her down. She clenched her teeth and sobbed. Her right hand was behind her back. She used her middle finger to scratch her clothes, leaving a long mark. Then she used her middle finger to tap her thumb rhythmically. Suzaku first noticed her right hand. At first, Suzaku thought that she was doing it subconsciously. But later she realized that something was wrong. Su Yunxian was using Morse code. Su Yunxian was using Morse code to send her a message. Suzaku's heart suddenly jumped. She quickly glanced at the cameras around her. She boldly guessed that since Su Yunxian dared to use Morse code with her back facing her, she must have found a way to interfere with the cameras. She began to focus on Su Yunxian's fingers to see what message she was trying to send. Su Yunxian buried her head in Bailey Han's arms and cried. Her right hand, which was hidden behind her back, was tapping rhythmically. She told Suzaku, My godfather never told the assassins the name of his employer, but he told you my name. Have you ever doubted his intentions? Vermilion Bird's pupils suddenly shrank. In fact, she also had her suspicions, but this thought only flashed through her mind before she discarded it. She believed that her godfather was a righteous person. But today, when Beitang Xin threatened her godfather, he didn't even hesitate to reveal his employer's name. This indeed made her somewhat disappointed, even though she herself had betrayed her employer. Su Yunqian used Morse code again. He had long planned to betray you. Think about it. You changed your appearance and escaped abroad. You even used fake identities. How did Mika Keto find you in 2 days? That's because someone secretly tipped her off. Suzaku was shocked again. Only she, White Tiger, and her godfather who helped them get fake IDs, knew about her and White Tiger going to Vanuatu. Did her godfather really betray them? Su Yunqian's fingers moved again. Are you willing to be betrayed by your godfather? Why do you want to be righteous when your godfather is heartless? Well, that's all I have to say. Think about it yourselves. Su Yunqian estimated the time it took Falcon to hack into the villa's CCTV and quickly stopped typing the password. When Bailey Han comforted her, she said weakly, Han, I don't want to stay here anymore. Bailey Han held her arm. Okay, let's go. The moment they left the basement, the CCTV returned to normal. Mika Kito's eyes moved. She felt that it was too much of a coincidence that the CCTV was broken. She called her subordinate who was guarding the basement door. The subordinate told her that Su Yunqian did not say anything. After yelling angrily, she leaned into Bailey Han's arms and cried. Mika Kito frowned and was deep in thought. Just then one of her subordinates came in and said, Boss, someone uploaded the photos 3 days ago. We have a clue. 3 days ago, someone uploaded the photos of Xia Dong's drug addiction to the internet through a foreign server. Fortunately, Mika Kito was prepared and intercepted it, so it did not cause a stir. Mika Kito looked at her subordinate and gestured for him to continue. Ouyang cracked the other party's IP address. Through the IP address we found out the other party's identity. He's a hacker. He said that a client from China contacted him and asked him to release the photos. He did not know the other party's name, but he received the photos through an email. Through the email used to trade with the hacker we tracked down the address. The subordinate handed a small notebook to Mika Kito and pointed at a little red dot on the map. The Su family. Mika Kito's eyes narrowed dangerously. The Su Bolan family? No, it's Su Murong's family. What? Mika Kito raised his eyebrows in surprise. Xiaxia's father, Xia Zhenxing, married Su Murong. He had investigated thoroughly and found out that they had a daughter named Su Xingqian. How could they be involved in the theft and photos? He had always thought that the mastermind behind the theft, photos, and kidnapping was the same person. Could he have been wrong? After a moment of shock, Mika Kito's face darkened. Things are getting more and more interesting. Who took these photos and who wants to harm Xiaxia? I'll get to the bottom of this. He flipped through the photos carefully, trying to find clues. In the photos, Xia Dong was lying on the bed in pain. Her body was convulsing, and the background was in her bedroom. Wait a minute. Except for the one time when she first came back, she spent the time in her own bedroom. After that, he had brought her to his villa every time. Mika Kito suddenly flew into a rage and slammed the photos on the table. Jiang Dao, get Xiaxia's nanny here. He paused and said, don't let Xia know about this. In Xiaxia's house, the only person who could come into contact with her was the nanny. The nanny was quickly brought to Mika Kito by Jiang Dao. She was in her 30s and came from the countryside. She looked honest and timid. When she saw Mika Kito's angry face, her legs began to turn to jelly. She said in a trembling voice, Mr. Beitang, why are you looking for me? Mika Kito threw the photos at her face. She hurriedly caught the photos. When she saw the photos clearly, she was so shocked that she fell to her knees and cried, Mr. Beitang, please let me go. I was forced to do this. Mika Kito looked down at her coldly. Speak. Who ordered you to do this? The nanny choked with sobs. I don't know. I don't know her. She covered her face. I only know she's a woman. She kidnapped my child and threatened me. She said she would kill my child if I didn't do as she said. She crawled to Mika Kito on her knees and grabbed his leg. She begged, Mr. Beitang, I beg you. Please let me go. I didn't do it on purpose. Mika Kito looked at her coldly. Don't worry. I won't kill you. You're still useful to me. More importantly, Xiaxia valued her a lot. If he killed her and Xiaxia found out, she would never forgive him. The nanny kowtowed gratefully. Thank you. Thank you. I'll do whatever you ask me to do. Mika Kito walked around her in disgust. Do you remember the voice of the person who ordered you to do this? Yes, yes. Mika Kito said a few words to Jiang Dao and then walked out of the surveillance room. Jiang Dao asked the nanny to sit in front of the surveillance screen. He pointed at Su Yunxian on the screen and said, "Listen to her voice." The nanny nodded hurriedly. Mika Kito walked into the living room. Bailey Han and Su Yunxian had been waiting for him for a long time. Bailey Han said calmly, "I thought you wouldn't show up again." He had left the guest here for more than an hour while he stayed in the surveillance room. If it weren't for the fact that he wanted to solve this problem once and for all, Bailey Han would have slammed the door and left. "I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I was dealing with something just now." Mika Kito apologized, but there was no apology on his face. Bailey Han was very unhappy. He said with a dark face, "Let's get to the point. We don't believe the words of the middleman. I firmly believe that this has nothing to do with Yunxian." Mika Kito sneered and turned to Su Yunxian. "Miss Su, as a suspect, you have the right to say something to defend yourself." Su Yunxian smiled. "I didn't do it. I believe that the innocent will find out the truth. I also believe that Mr. Beitang will find out the truth one day." As soon as Su Yunxian finished speaking, the nanny in the surveillance room shook her head. "It's not her. The person who ordered me to secretly take pictures of Miss Xia is not her." Jiang Dao immediately walked out of the surveillance room and came to the living room. He whispered a few words in Mika Kito's ear. Mika Kito's eyes narrowed but quickly returned to normal. He looked at Su Yunxian and said calmly, "One day. I'll give you one more day. If you can't find any new clues, I'll assume that Miss Su is the mastermind. Miss Su, I've said before that anyone who hurts Xia will not have a good ending. I don't care if she has a backer or not. Do you understand what I mean?" This was a blatant declaration. If they couldn't catch the mastermind in one day, they would treat Su Yunxian as the mastermind and deal with her. Bailey Han's eyes turned cold and he exploded on the spot. "Mika Kito, don't go overboard." Awesome novel Songshu 566. Chapter 119. You'll find out soon enough whether I went overboard or not. Beitang Shin looked at him mockingly. "Bailey Han, you're the one who trusted this woman too much. There's so much evidence in front of you, yet you still refuse to admit it. One day you'll regret it." Bailey Han suddenly stood up, his anger skyrocketing. Su Yunxian quickly pulled him back and said softly, "Han, don't be so agitated. Let's go back." After all, they were in someone else's territory. If they really fought, they wouldn't be able to get away with it. After sending off Bailey Han and Su Yunxian, Mika Kito contacted the best fighter, Lu Xing, and gave him a secret mission. That night, Lu Xing snuck into Su Xingqian's house and secretly recorded her conversation with the servant. He then stole her laptop while she was asleep. The nanny listened to Su Xingqian's recording and confirmed that Su Xingqian was the woman who threatened her to steal and film Xia Dong. Mika Kito found a hacker under her and cracked Su Xingqian's password. After entering her laptop, she found that this woman's innocent appearance hid such an ugly heart. There was a folder with a password that stored a lot of things related to Xia Dong. There were recordings, photos, and even videos from 5 years ago. Through the traces of her surfing the internet, she found that she paid special attention to Bailey Han and collected a lot of things related to him on her laptop. Looking at these things, Mika Kito couldn't help but suspect that Su Xingqian was the mastermind. Su Xingqian's obsession with Bailey Han had reached a morbid level, so she hated Xia Dong getting close to him. She hated Su Yunxian, who was about to marry him, so she planned this kidnapping to kill two birds with one stone. However, did Su Xingqian really have the ability to set up such a big trap? Mika Kito rubbed her brows. Jiang Dao suddenly came in and said, "Boss, Suzaku wants to see you." In the basement, Suzaku and White Tiger had already washed the bloodstains off their bodies. They finally revealed their true faces, and the wounds on their bodies were also treated. Suzaku's cold and elegant face was expressionless as she said, "Boss Beitang, I suddenly thought of something that might be of help to your investigation." Mika Kito looked at her coldly. "Tell me." "Godfather has a goddaughter." She paused and said, "I overheard it by accident. That day I went to Godfather's place to pick up a mission. It was Miss Xia's mission. I arrived earlier than the agreed time. I overheard him talking to someone and heard him call his precious goddaughter. After that, my godfather told me that Su Yunxian had issued a mission." Mika Kito raised her eyebrows. Suzaku continued, I didn't think too much about it, but now that I think about it, I feel a little strange. Why would my godfather tell me the employer's name? He knew it was against the rules. Mika Kito said indifferently, "Do you think it's because of the person he was talking to on the phone?" Suzaku shrugged. "I don't know. I'm just asking a question. I don't suspect anything." Mika Kito's gaze was sharp. "Are you trying to tell me that Su Yunshin was framed by my godfather?" Suzaku curled her lips, and her cold and elegant face immediately became beautiful. "Boss Beiteng, as a prisoner, I know my own situation very well. I won't play tricks to test your patience, and I won't risk my own life. I'm just telling you everything I know." Mika Kito's gaze was as sharp as a knife, coldly cutting her skin. She said word by word, "That had better be the case." Suzaku was not moved at all. She asked calmly, "White Tiger and I have already told you everything according to the agreement. When will you follow the agreement and ensure the safety of our loved ones?" "I'll arrange for them to emigrate within this week." "Emigrate?" Suzaku's gaze turned cold. "Emigrate to Japan?" Mika Kito's eyes flashed with admiration. "Not bad. You're very smart." Suzaku sneered. "What a clever trick. You've tied up the people we care about and sent them to Japan. Aren't you afraid that we'll betray you?" Mika Kito placed her hands on the table and looked down with a domineering aura like a king. "I've never been worried that you'll betray me. Controlling your loved ones is just to make you more useful to me." Suzaku looked at the tall figure in front of her. Although she was angry, she was more impressed. This man was born with the wisdom and aura of a king. She said expressionlessly, "Deal. White Tiger and I agree to work for you, and you have to guarantee the safety of White Tiger's parents and Director Lin." "Of course." Mika Kito was also expressionless. It was a long time later that Suzaku realized that after she and White Tiger hurt Xia Dong, they were able to escape unscathed and reach an agreement with Mika Kito. They were simply lucky. Of course, it was also at that time that she realized that if it weren't for the fact that they were still useful, they would have been thrown into the Tibetan Mastiff Zoo and fed to the mastiffs by Mika Kito. Suzaku and White Tiger officially joined the Sanku group. Mika Kito considered that the godfather might take revenge on them and temporarily arranged for them to go to Japan to familiarize themselves with the gang's affairs. Of course, he also sent loyal subordinates to keep an eye on them to prevent them from playing any tricks. Now, it seemed that all the evidence pointed to Su Xingchen being the mastermind and Su Yunshen being innocent. Mika Kito was waiting. He was waiting for the one-day deadline to see what evidence Su Yunshen would produce to prove her innocence. The next day, accompanied by Bailey Han, Su Yunshen appeared in Mika Kito's office with a small box. She took out the contents of the box. There was a recording pen and a stack of photos. She bit her lip and seemed to be in a difficult position. Xingchen asked the servant to give me the recording pen. "It contains what Miss Xia said in front of her mother's grave. As for the content, you will know once you listen to it. These photos were also sent to me by Xingchen. My assistant can testify." Mika Kito played the recording pen. The contents of the recording made his expression turn ugly. Bailey Han's deep eyes also moved. It was Bailey Han's first time seeing these photos. It was actually taken the night he was at Charming Club. At the time, Xiao Tianxing warned him that Su Xingchen was also at the club and told him to be careful. That was why he asked Xiao Tianxing to carry Xia Dong into the private room. He didn't expect Su Xingchen to sense that something was wrong and secretly took photos. Bailey Han looked at Su Yunshen. "Why didn't you tell me that Su Xingchen gave you these photos?" Su Yunshen bit her lip and forced a smile. "I believe that there's nothing going on between you and Xia Dong. Xingchen must have done this to create a rift between us. Of course, I don't want her to succeed. Han, the reason why I kept this from you was because I didn't want you to think that I misunderstood you." Bailey Han didn't say anything but secretly held her hand. Su Yunshen smiled slightly and looked at Mika Kito. "Mr. Beiteng, weren't you curious why Xia Dong's photos had my fingerprints? I remembered that after Su Xingchen sent me the photos, she came to my office. She might have stolen the photos with my fingerprints. My assistant can testify that she came to my office." Mika Kito's deep eyes stared at her as if he wanted to see through her. She maintained an elegant smile and was neither servile nor overbearing. Bailey Han took a step forward and confronted him. His gaze was as cold as water. "I believe that Mr. Beiteng will find out the truth and won't wrongly accuse an innocent person." Mika Kito said indifferently, "Of course I won't wrongly accuse an innocent person, and I won't let the real culprit go." Through the evidence, everything was as Su Yunshen said. Su Xingchen had sent the items in the box to her, and Su Xingchen had indeed been to Su Yunshen's office. Su Yunqian's suspicions were cleared, and Su Xingqian was now the prime suspect. Mika Keto sneered. Su Xingqian, it doesn't matter if you're related to Xia Xia by blood. If you dare to hurt Xia Xia, I'll make you pay the price. At this time, Su Xingqian's mood was so good that she had nothing to say. This was because she had just spoken to her godfather. Her godfather had said that his 2 killers had been arrested by Beitang Xin. Moreover, Beitang Xin had obtained testimony from him. Su Yunqian's kidnapping of Xia Dong had been exposed. Su Xingqian didn't know that he and his godfather had teamed up to plot against Su Yunqian, but she had bitten back and dragged him into the water. He had become the target of Mika Keto's revenge. Because she was in a good mood, she invited Bai Meiwei and Bailey Fei Yen to a nightclub to have some fun. The 3 of them drank and laughed together. Soon, a handsome guy came over to hit on her. Bailey Fei Yen, the love-struck girl, was the first to be seduced. The 2 of them hugged and danced on the dance floor. Another guy came over to hit on Bai Meiwei. Bai Meiwei already had someone in her heart, so of course she rejected him. She waved at Su Xingqian and said, "I'm going to the washroom." Su Xingqian smiled and nodded. A handsome guy came over. His short hair covered his forehead, and his eyes were charming. He chuckled and said, "Alone?" Su Xingqian also smiled. "No, I'm with a friend." The handsome guy suddenly came in front of her. His handsome face was magnified and she couldn't help but be stunned. Just as she was in a daze, the person beside her quickly put a white pill in her wine glass. The handsome guy's nose was already close to hers. She quickly pushed him away and blushed shyly. The handsome guy raised his wine glass and smiled ambiguously. "You look like my first love. How about we toast to this coincidence?" Su Xingqian blinked. "Do you always use such lame excuses to get close to girls?" Although she said that, she still picked up the wine glass on the bar and clinked it with his. The transparent liquid slowly flowed down her throat. The handsome guy's eyes were filled with complacency and ruthlessness. In less than a minute, Su Xingqian fainted. The handsome guy picked her up and quickly walked to the private room at the back. When Bai Meiwei came back, Su Xingqian had already disappeared. She squeezed onto the dance floor. The music was deafening. She had no choice but to shout loudly. Bailey Fei Yen only heard her question. Bailey Fei Yen said that she also didn't see Su Xingqian. Bai Meiwei called Su Xingqian's phone, but it was turned off. She thought that she was drunk and went home first, so she didn't think much about it. Little did she know that Su Xingqian had already been forced to drink a strong aphrodisiac. Lying on the bed, she was surrounded by 3 naked men. Beauty novel Xinwu 799. Chapter 120. So hot, so uncomfortable. Su Xingqian was forced to drink 2 large cups of strong alcohol mixed with aphrodisiac. Her whole body felt like it was on fire and she lost all reason. She only knew that following her body's instinct, she tore off the clothes on her body. In a short 10 seconds, her whole body was only left with her underwear. So hot, so hot. Not enough, no matter how much she tried, it was not enough. Her eyes were blurred and she took off the last bit of cloth on her body. Her soft and beautiful figure was immediately exposed in front of the 3 men. The 3 of them were all male prostitutes in this bar, and they were called to this private room by a mysterious client. The mysterious client told them that as long as they served the woman on the bed, each of them would receive a reward of 1 million. 1 million, they never dreamed that they would have so much money. Even if they were facing an old and ugly woman, they were willing to do it, let alone this beautiful woman in front of them. "Don't be afraid, big brother will soon make you not hot." Seeing Su Xingqian's coquettish appearance, one of the male prostitutes could not bear it anymore. His thing was already bulging up, and he impatiently pounced on her. He directly pushed her down on the bed and tightly pressed her burning hot body. The other 2 male prostitutes were originally somewhat hesitant, but when they saw their companion pouncing on her, they were afraid of falling behind, so they also quickly pounced on her. They still remembered the mysterious person's words, to make her beg for mercy, to take the initiative to seduce them, to beg them. They were all experienced in love, and they were very familiar with a woman's body, and they were also very skilled. One of them used the tip of his tongue to kiss her ear, one of them crawled on her chest, wantonly playing with her softness, and one of them used his finger to explore her secret place. All of her body's sensitive points were under their control, and the strange pleasure wave after wave attacked the nerves in Su Xingqian's brain. She desperately twisted her body, moaning delicately, following her instincts to cater to their movements. The man under her legs suddenly stopped his movements, and his finger withdrew from her legs. Su Xingchen felt an unprecedented emptiness, and slowly floated up from her body. She impatiently twisted her body, her misty eyes were stained with mist, her cheeks were crimson, and she softly moaned, "Want? What do you want?" The person in front of her chest mischievously pinched her soft breasts, and the increased strength made her cry out involuntarily. Although it was a little painful, a strange feeling soon surged in her heart. She wanted more, but the three of them stopped moving. The unbearable pain spread in her body and it was very uncomfortable. She tried her best to grab a body and rubbed against his chest, letting out comfortable moans. That person let out a deep laugh. "Kitten, I'll teach you how to play with yourself, okay?" He grabbed her small hands that were groping everywhere and placed them on her own soft hands. His palms covered hers, and he rubbed them gently at first before slowly increasing the strength. She quickly learned how to make herself comfortable and impatiently placed both her hands on him. "Don't be in such a hurry." That person smirked as he pulled one of her hands down and slid it down to her flat bottom. Then he slowly slid his hand down, following the fragrant grass into the valley. Watching a beauty defile herself was a very erotic thing. The three of them were burning with lust and their mouths were dry. However, they didn't make the next move. They were waiting for an opportunity. After a while, Su Xingchen was no longer satisfied. She sobbed, "It's uncomfortable. I want." One of them crawled by her ear and bit her earlobe, bewitching her will. "What do you want? Do you want a man?" She didn't know. She shook her head in confusion, her eyes filled with tears. "Say, you want a man, you want a man." The man used a gentle and low voice to bewitch her. Every time he said it, his fingertips would fiercely press down. His body and lower body were already soaked. I want a man." Su Xingchen, who was continuously teased and teased, was already sobbing. The fire in her body burned crazily, and all of her reason was burned to ashes. All that was left was lust. "Louder, I can't hear you." The man slightly raised his voice. "I want a man." Su Xingchen cried loudly. The three men looked at each other and smiled evilly. Following the violent movements of one of them, Su Xingchen let out a mournful scream. It was so painful. The snow-white sheets below her were stained with bright red blood. "I didn't expect you to still be a virgin." The man worked hard, without the slightest bit of tenderness. The blood-curdling screams gradually turned into moans and groans. The good show had just begun. When Su Xingchen woke up, it was already the afternoon of the second day. Her whole body was in so much pain that it was as if someone had taken her apart and reassembled her. She blankly opened her eyes. In an unfamiliar room, she looked down. She saw that the bed was in a mess, and her naked body was lying on the bed. Her body was covered with bruises and some kind of suspicious liquid. There was also a strange taste in her mouth. After being stunned for a few seconds, she suddenly crazily got up from the bed and staggered into the bathroom. Looking at her battered and exhausted self in the mirror, she wailed loudly. She didn't remember what happened last night, but she knew that her innocence was gone. While crying, she washed her body over and over again. When she came out of the bathroom, her skin was already red as if it was bleeding. There were no clothes in the room. She didn't dare to stay on the messy bed. She curled up into a ball and hid on the sofa, hugging her shoulders tightly with both hands. After about half an hour, she finally calmed down. Using the landline in the room, she called Bai Meiwei. In terms of relationship, she was closer to Bailey Fei Yen, but Bailey Fei Yen was a brainless woman. It was very likely that she would unintentionally expose this matter, so she chose the mature and intelligent Bai Meiwei. When Bai Meiwei received her call, she quickly took a leave of absence and rushed over from the hospital. She didn't ask anything and handed the clothes to Su Xingchen. After she changed and walked out of the bathroom, she held her hand and said softly, "Xingchen, I'll take you home." Su Xingchen sat beside Bai Meiwei. Her eyes were lifeless as she looked at the scenery outside the window. She said softly, "Meiwei, I was drunk last night and had a one-night stand with someone." Bai Meiwei said softly, "Don't think so much. Go home and sleep. You'll be the lively and cheerful Su Xingchen again." Su Xingchen smiled bitterly. "But I'm no longer worthy of Big Brother Han." Bai Meiwei didn't know how to comfort her, so she could only hold her hand. They didn't speak for the rest of the journey. Bai Meiwei sent Su Xingchen to the entrance of the villa. She wanted to accompany her in, but she refused. Bai Meiwei could only let her be. When Su Xingchen walked into the living room, she realized that the atmosphere wasn't right. Mommy, who was usually working at the company at this time, was actually sitting on the sofa with a gloomy expression. Daddy was sitting beside her with an ugly expression. Other than them, there weren't any servants in the living room. Mommy, Daddy. Su Xingqian revealed a sweet smile and endured the pain as she walked in front of them. Xia Zhenxing sighed and turned his head away, not looking at her. Su Murong suddenly stood up and threw something at her feet. She angrily said, Su Xingqian, look at what you've done. Mommy? Su Xingqian was shocked by her sudden anger. She took a step back and bent down to pick up the thing on the ground. Was a CD. She tearfully said, Mommy, what is this? Su Murong angrily held her chest. What is this? You still have the face to ask me what this is? Let me ask you, where did you go last night? Why didn't you come back last night? Su Xingqian's expression became even more pitiful, but her brain was spinning rapidly. Could it be that Daddy and Mommy already knew what happened last night? This CD, could it be? What about you? Let me ask you, what did you do last night? Su Murong was so angry that her whole body trembled. She pointed her finger at Su Xingqian's nose, her eyes overflowing with anger. Wife, don't be so agitated, be careful of your body. Xia Zhenxing supported Su Murong. He looked at Su Xingqian and sighed, Xingqian, how could you do such a thing? You've really disappointed us. Daddy, Mommy, listen to me, I didn't do it on purpose, I was drunk last night. Su Xingqian was already sure that the CD was about what happened last night. She quickly grabbed Su Murong's hand and explained. Get out of the way, I don't have such a shameful daughter like you. Su Murong angrily shook off Su Xingqian's arm. Xia Zhenxing quickly said, Wife, don't be agitated, I'll help you upstairs to rest for a while. When he helped her upstairs, Xia Zhenxing turned around to look at Su Xingqian. Seeing her sitting on the sofa dejectedly, silently crying, he couldn't help but sigh. After her parents had gone upstairs, Su Xingqian sorted out her emotions and took the CD back to her room. She placed the CD into the CD player. The crazy and undignified scene caused her to sweep everything on the table to the floor in a fit of anger. Whatever bottles and cans, they were all smashed. After the anger, she tried to calm down. She knew that she was framed, and the other party sending the CD into her parents' hands was only the first step. She could almost imagine how she would face all kinds of eyes when this video was broadcasted on all the media and networks. Who was it that wanted to frame her? Her two biggest enemies, Su Yunqian and Xia Dong, could it be one of them? Su Xingqian sat on the sofa and carefully analyzed the situation. First, her laptop mysteriously disappeared. She thought that it was the work of an ordinary thief, so she didn't take it to heart. Now that she thought about it, maybe someone wanted to dig out something from her laptop, so they stole it. She nervously clenched her fingers. There were a lot of Xia Dong stuff on her laptop. Was she the one who did it? She thought for a while and called Su Yunqian. Sister Su Yunqian, are you okay? Su Yunqian chuckled. What can happen to me? Instead, you Xingqian have to be careful. Be careful that Mika Keto comes looking for you for revenge. Mika Keto is a vengeful man. Su Xingqian's body stiffened. Sister Yunqian, what do you mean? Su Yunqian kindly reminded her, you know what you've done, my dear cousin Xingqian. She wanted to frame Su Xingqian, but unfortunately her skills weren't good enough and she got herself into trouble. Attention Xinwu 799. Chapter 121. Su Xingqian ended the call and bit her lip. She began to confirm that her plan with her godfather had failed. If Su Yunqian was really treated as a suspect by Mika Keto, she wouldn't be so arrogant. With Su Yunqian's methods, she must have bitten her back. So, she was actually being taken revenge by Mika Keto. Su Xingqian scratched the leather sofa with her nails. There was a knock on the door. She took a deep breath and said softly, Please come in. Xia Zhenxing walked in. His expression was still very ugly. Seeing the shattered glass on the floor, he sighed and said, Xingqian, your mommy is still very angry. Wait a few days for her anger to subside a little. Then you can have a good talk with her and ask for her forgiveness. Su Xingqian blinked. Her eyes were quickly covered with a layer of mist. She looked at him pitifully. Daddy, I was set up. I was at a bar with my friends last night and someone drugged my drink. Xia Zhenxing was very shocked. There's such a thing? Who set you up? She said with tears in her eyes, Mika Keto. You mean the CEO of Bo Ao Corporation, Mika Keto? Xia Zhenxing couldn't believe it. Wasn't Mika Keto Xia's fiancé? Why would he drug Xingqian? Yes, it's him. Why would he want to harm you? Su Xingqian lowered her head guiltily. Because I know that Xia Dong is my older sister and brother Han treats her very specially. So, I once insulted her verbally. When Mika Keto found out about it, he took revenge on me. Xia Jinxing's body stiffened. After a long time he said, "You really only insulted her verbally? I've seen Mika Keto before. He doesn't seem like such a ruthless person." If he had only spoken ill of Xia, Mika Keto wouldn't have done something so overboard. Su Xingchen jerked his head up and looked at him in disbelief. "Daddy, Xia Dong is your daughter. I'm also your daughter. Why are you biased towards her? I really only said a few bad things about her, and Mika Keto happened to hear it." Xia Jinxing pinched his eyebrows. "Someone sent a CD to our house this morning. I'm worried that Mika Keto will do something else. Daddy, he won't let me go." Su Xingchen grabbed his arm, his face full of anticipation. "Daddy, I beg you. Go and plead with Sister Xia Dong. Ask Mika Keto to return my things and let me go, okay?" Xia Jinxing looked troubled. "Xingchen, it's not that Daddy doesn't want to help you, but Xia hates me. She doesn't want to see me at all." Su Xingchen burst into tears. "Mika Keto will definitely leak the CD. I don't have the face to live anymore." As she spoke, she suddenly stood up and ran to the window. She quickly opened the window and looked like she was going to jump out of the window. Xia Jinxing hurriedly ran up and grabbed her arm. "Xingchen, calm down. We'll think of a solution." Su Xingchen burst into tears. "What else can we do? Mika Keto won't let me go. I'll just die. Then I won't embarrass you." She struggled hard, trying to pry his hands off her. He desperately held onto her arm and gritted his teeth. "Okay, I promise you. I'll go find Xia and ask her to persuade Mika Keto." Su Xingchen's lips curled into a smug smile. She turned around and hugged Xia Jinxing, crying her heart out. "Daddy? Okay. Don't cry. Hurry up and get down." Xia Jinxing's heart was in his throat. He carefully helped her down from the railing. Xia Dong came out of the company building and was about to go to the parking lot to get her car when she was suddenly stopped. She looked coldly at Xia Jinxing, who was standing in front of her, and said coldly, "Xia Jinxing, didn't I make myself clear? I don't want to see you." Xia Jinxing looked embarrassed and pained. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to disturb you, but Xingchen, something happened. I need your help." She looked at him coldly. "Help? How do you want me to help her?" She sounded very calm. Xia Jinxing thought that she would listen to him, so he quickly explained, "I heard from Xingchen that she once said some things that hurt you. Mika Keto found out about it, so Mika Keto took revenge on her by filming some indecent videos of her. She hopes that you can persuade Mika Keto to destroy those videos." Xia Dong was almost in awe of herself. She could actually laugh after hearing what he said. She raised her eyebrows. "So, Su Xingchen told you that the way she hurt me was by saying some bad things about me?" Xia Jinxing nodded, not understanding what she meant. Xia Dong laughed out loud. "So you believe her?" Xia Jinxing hesitated for a moment but still nodded. Xia Dong clapped her hands. "That's so touching. Thank you for letting me know what father-daughter love is." She suddenly stopped smiling and said coldly, "Xia Jinxing, it's obvious that you don't know what your good daughter has done. I don't want to waste time explaining it to you. I won't help you with anything because this is what Su Xingchen deserves." Xia Jinxing was stunned. Although he doubted Su Xingchen's words, he still believed that she was kind-hearted and wouldn't do anything evil. But now he was shaken. Xia Dong didn't look at him anymore. She walked past him and headed to the car without looking back. Xia Jinxing stood there in a daze for a moment. He suddenly turned around and ran after her. He grabbed her arm and begged, Xia, no matter what Xingchen has done, she's still your sister. Take it as Dad begging you to destroy those videos. Otherwise she'll be ruined." Xia Dong sneered. "She's not my sister. My mother only gave birth to one daughter, me." Xia. She pulled her arm away and was about to leave. Xia Jinxing panicked. He suddenly knelt down and said with red eyes, Xia, Dad is begging you. Don't ruin Xingchen. She's still young. If you have any resentment, take it out on Dad." Xia Dong was stunned and took 2 steps back. No matter how calm and emotionless she pretended to be, her heart still hurt when she saw her own father kneeling in front of her for another daughter. Her hands trembled as she tried to control herself from helping him up. Xia. He looked like he had aged in an instant. She couldn't bear to see him crying. She wanted to run away, but her arm was tightly held by him. Many passers-by looked over and pointed at them. She bit her lip and turned her head away, not wanting to look at him. Her eyes were covered with a layer of mist. "Mr. Xia, please don't do this." A man's voice suddenly sounded in Xia Dong's ears. She turned around and saw Xia Jinxing being pulled up from the ground by a man in a suit and black-rimmed glasses. It was Lu Xing. Xia Dong quickly wiped the corners of her eyes and said to Lu Xing, "Lu Xing, if this man comes close to me in the future, treat him as a suspicious person." Understood. Lu Xing felt guilty and nodded. Because Xia Jinxing was Miss Xia's father, he gave him special privileges and allowed him to get close to her. He didn't expect him to do such an irrational thing in public and make her the focus of attention. "Xia Xia, don't go, Xia Xia." Xia Jinxing chased after Xia Dong with his face covered in dirt, but he was stopped by Lu Xing. He said expressionlessly, "Mr. Xia, Miss Xia doesn't want to see you. What should I do? Xingchen's matter hasn't been settled yet. What if she takes things too hard and does something stupid again?" Xia Jinxing watched Xia Dong's car drive away and his mind was filled with Su Xingchen's safety. "Daddy, how did it go? Is sister willing to help me?" Just as he was thinking, Su Xingchen called. Her voice was soft and sounded uneasy. Xia Jinxing sighed. "Xingchen." Xia Xia didn't agree. "I planned to go to her house to look for her, but I didn't know her address. I followed her car and lost her in less than 10 minutes. Xingchen, tell me honestly, have you done anything wrong to her?" Xingchen burst into tears. "I don't want to live anymore. I don't have the face to live anymore. Daddy, Mika Keto won't let me go. You will definitely let the whole world see that video?" Xia Jinxing heard a loud bang from the other side of the phone. He was so shocked that his body trembled. He said sternly, "Xingchen, what are you doing? Don't do anything stupid." At the same time, Su Murong's screams came from the other side of the phone. Xingchen put down the broken vase. "Ah, there's blood. Someone call an ambulance." Xia Jinxing's heart clenched. His whole body was tense as he shouted, "Xingchen, don't be rash. Put down the broken vase. Daddy will promise you anything. I'll go and look for Xia Xia right away." Su Xingchen sobbed. But you don't even know where she lives. How are you going to look for her?" "It's okay, I'll think of a way." Xia Jinxing quickly coaxed her gently. "Xingchen Gigai, put down the vase in your hand and listen to me. I'll think of a way." Plop. It was the sound of something being thrown to the ground. Xia Jinxing heaved a sigh of relief. On the other end of the phone, Su Murong rushed over and said anxiously, "Xingchen, let mommy take a look at your wound." "Mommy, I'm sorry," Su Xingchen said pitifully. Then she sobbed, "Daddy?" Xia Jinxing comforted her gently. "Xingchen, it's okay. Daddy will think of a way." After hanging up the phone, he suddenly remembered that he still had a place to go. It was the kindergarten. Xia Xia would bring the children home every day. By the time he arrived at the kindergarten, Xia Dong was already gone, and the children had all left. He punched the iron gate with all his might, unwilling to give up. After overcoming her drug addiction, Xia Dong lay lazily on the bed and stared blankly out the window. Mika Keto patted her head. "What's wrong? Are you in pain?" She looked into his eyes. "Brother Shin, tell me, how did you take revenge on Su Xingchen?" Mika Keto had told her that Su Xingchen was the mastermind, but he didn't tell her how he would take revenge. Beauty novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 122. Mika Keto pursed his lips. "Are you sure you want to know?" She nodded firmly. "Brother Shin, I know what you're capable of. My psychological endurance is already very strong." "I'll take that as a compliment." The corners of his lips curled up, but his words were cold and heartless. "I'm just giving her a taste of her own medicine. Last night, I arranged for 3 male prostitutes to serve her and filmed the entire process. Also, I gave her an unexpected surprise." Of course, Xia Dong knew what it meant to serve her. She felt a little sorry for her, but when she thought about how Su Qingchen had hired a hooligan to molest her 5 years ago and even uploaded a video online, causing her to be unable to return home, her pity dissipated. An unexpected surprise? What's that? Beiteng Shin's eyes flashed with a cold light. Drugs. I want her to experience the pain of being addicted to drugs. Xia Dong couldn't help but shiver when she thought of the pain. Mika Keto sensed it and stared into her eyes. Do you think I'm scary? Everyone in the world could be afraid of him, but she couldn't. She was stunned. She hugged his arm and mumbled, Brother Shin, in my heart, you'll always be the gentle and considerate Brother Shin who dotes on me and cherishes me. The reason why you treated Su Xingchen like this is because she hurt me first. Mika Keto hugged her tightly, but he was very careful to protect her abdomen. His meticulous care made her feel deeply touched. She lay in his arms and asked softly, Brother Shin, what do you plan to do about that video? He stroked her hair. I know that Xia Jinxing went to see you today. I want to know your thoughts. Xia Dong was silent for a long time before she said slowly, I never wanted to hurt anyone, but they always forced me. I'm not a saint. I won't let Su Xingchen off so easily. She looked down and stroked her abdomen. How could she be so cruel? Not only did she hurt me, but she also wanted to harm my child. She injected me with drugs and wanted my child to be abnormal from the moment he was born. Her voice was choked with sobs as she spoke. She closed her eyes as if she had made an important decision. Brother Shin, I want her to know that she has to pay the price for hurting my child. Mika Kito rubbed his chin against her hair and said softly, I won't let her off. An hour ago I had someone post the video online. Xia Dong looked up in shock. She saw tenderness in his eyes. She finally understood. She couldn't help but to cry. She's his S? He smiled. So you don't have to feel guilty. I was the one who posted the video. Even if you have to face Xia Jinxing, you don't have to feel guilty. Xia Dong hugged him. She couldn't help but cry. The Su family. When Xia Jinxing returned home, he saw a furious Su Murong and a sobbing Su Xingchen. Su Xingchen's right wrist was still bandaged with blood. He sat on the sofa helplessly. In the end, I still couldn't find Xia Dong's house. In front of Su Murong, he would never call his daughter by her nickname. There's no need for that anymore. Su Murong flipped the laptop over and pointed the screen at him. She said sternly, look at what this is. Xia Jinxing only took one look and his body froze. It was Su Xingchen's indecent video. It had already gone viral on the internet. Now, not only will Xingchen be humiliated, but our entire Su family corporation will also be in trouble. Su Murong could almost imagine the tragic sight of the stock prices falling. She held her forehead and was in pain. Su Xingchen cried sadly. Mommy, what should we do now? Su Murong tried hard to calm her anger. With a sullen face she said, Hubby, help me get the phone. I want to talk to Xiao Qifeng. The Xiao family was a media tycoon and had a lot of influence in the industry. She wanted him to help block the related media and television reports. Just before Su Murong called Xiao Qifeng, he had already received news from the television station and ordered the news to be banned. Su Murong was naturally very grateful. Su Murong used the Su family's influence and connections to get through all the key points. All the newspapers and television reports were banned. However, the internet was not something she could stop alone. A portion of the video was deleted, but another batch appeared. Su Xingchen personally experienced how Xia Dong felt when she was forced into a desperate situation. However, this was just the beginning. Just as Su Murong was busy using her connections to get rid of the indecent video, her drug addiction kicked in. Xingchen, what's wrong? When Xia Jinxing realized that something was wrong with her, her whole body was already trembling with tears and snot flowing out. Soon, her hands and feet were convulsing and she was foaming at the mouth. Xia Jinxing was so scared that he quickly called the hospital's emergency number. The ambulance soon arrived and took Su Xingchen to the hospital. After the doctor checked, he said, Mrs. Xia, Mr. Xia, the patient's drug addiction kicked in. Drug addiction kicked in? Su Murong's vision turned black and she almost fainted. Xia Jinxing quickly held her and asked anxiously, Doctor, my daughter has never been addicted to drugs. How could her drug addiction kick in? Are you sure you're not mistaken? The doctor shook his head helplessly. We've already checked very carefully. There are 2 needle holes on her arm. They should be left behind by injecting drugs. Xia Jinxing felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Su Murong slowly recovered and analyzed, someone must have deliberately injected drugs into Xingchen. Could it have happened last night? Maybe this was Xia Dong's doing. Xia Jinxing was helpless. Honey, don't think too much. Saving Xingchen is more important. Su Murong snorted coldly. Are you still thinking about your daughter? At the end of the day, you still can't bear to part with her and her mother. Xia Jinxing gritted his teeth and said, I'm not. If it wasn't for Xingchen, I wouldn't have gone to look for Xia Dong. Honey, we've been married for so many years. Why don't you believe me? Su Murong stared at him for a while until he felt scared. She suddenly frowned and said, Forget it. Xingchen is more important now. The husband and wife returned to Su Xingchen's ward. Seeing her suffering from drug addiction, they felt like their hearts were being cut by a knife. The doctor injected her with drugs to suppress the toxicity, but it didn't have much effect. Xia Jinxing was burning with anxiety and asked, Doctor, how did this happen? The doctor was sweating profusely. The drugs injected into her body are too strong. The detoxification drugs in the hospital won't work on her. Then what should we do? Let's send her to a specialized detoxification center. Maybe they'll have a way. Su Murong didn't want to send Su Xingqian to a detoxification center. If news of her drug addiction spread, her reputation would be ruined and the entire Su family would be humiliated. However, when she saw her daughter suffering from drug addiction, she couldn't harden her heart. In the end, she had no choice but to send her to a detoxification center. Half an hour later, Su Xingqian pulled through and fell into a deep sleep. When she woke up and found out that her parents wanted to send her to a detoxification center, she crazily shook her head. No, I don't want to go. Mommy, Daddy, I beg you. Don't send me there. In her mind, a detoxification center was as scary as a prison. She didn't want to go there. Su Murong held her hand. Xingqian, Mommy doesn't want to send you there either. But the doctor said that the drug in your body is too strong. Their drugs won't be able to suppress it. If we send you to a detoxification center, there might be hope. No, I don't want to. Mommy, a detoxification center is too scary. There are drug addicts everywhere. Don't send me there. There must be a way. Su Xingqian's eyes were filled with tears as she pitifully begged. However, Su Murong had already made up her mind. No matter what, she couldn't persuade her. Su Xingqian could only pretend to agree. After her parents left her room, she immediately changed her SIM card and called her godfather. After the call connected, she burst into tears. Her godfather was extremely anxious. He thought that she was sad because of the video online, so he quickly comforted her. Baby, don't cry. Godfather is already thinking of a way to deal with those videos. Don't worry. Godfather will definitely help you vent your anger. Su Xingqian cried until she couldn't speak coherently. Godfather. I'm finished. I'm addicted to drugs. Her godfather was shocked. Addicted to drugs? What happened? Boo-hoo, I don't know. Maybe someone injected me with drugs last night. Godfather, what should I do? The doctor said that the drug is very strong. Even the drugs can't suppress it. Am I going to be like this for the rest of my life? Boo. Baby, don't worry. Godfather will think of a way. Her godfather was quick-witted. He knew that Mika Keto had treated Xingqian as the mastermind behind the incident that hurt Xiaodong. That's why he wanted to give her a taste of her own medicine. The drug that he injected into Xingqian was most likely the same one that Su Yunqian injected into Xiaodong. The godfather thought that he wouldn't be able to get any benefits from Beitangxin, so he might as well start with Su Yunqian. Since she had drugs, she might also have drugs for detoxification. Even if she didn't have drugs for detoxification, he could still get samples from her and quickly develop detoxification drugs. When Su Yunqian received her godfather's call, she was at the old Bailey mansion. Tonight, she followed Bailey Han back to the mansion to visit Old Madam and Old Master. She chatted with Old Madam for a while and was about to return to her room when she received a call from an unknown number. She sneered. Godfather, how dare you call me? She answered the call as she walked towards the secluded balcony. Her godfather's deep voice came from the other end. Miss Su, good evening. Su Yunqian didn't say anything. She walked to the balcony. The balcony was spacious and there were rattan chairs and potted plants. She glanced around and saw that there was no one around, so she sat down leisurely. Only then did she reply, Godfather, I'm really honored that you still remember me. Add Songshu 566. Chapter 123. The godfather ignored her sarcastic tone and said plainly, I had no choice but to do what I did last time. I didn't want to offend the head of the Sanku group. However, Miss Su, you're also very impressive. You offended Mika Keto and yet you're still alive and well. He pretended not to know what she meant and pushed all the blame to Su Xingqian. There was a pot of tea on the small wooden table in front of the rattan chair. Su Yunqian leisurely poured herself a cup of tea and chuckled. I don't think our relationship is good enough for a casual chat. Why are you looking for me? The godfather smiled. Then I'll get straight to the point. What's the name of the drug you asked Suzaku to inject into Xiaodong? Su Yunqian raised her eyebrows. I can't tell you. The godfather said plainly, I want to know how to detoxify it. Su Yunqian chuckled. I can't tell you. The godfather's voice turned cold. Aren't you afraid that I'll record our conversation and send it to Bailey Han? I know that what you're most afraid of is not being exposed by Mika Keto, but Bailey Han finding out your true colors. Su Yunqian's expression changed but quickly returned to normal. She smiled and said, I really can't tell you because it's not on the market yet and it doesn't have an official name. As for the detoxification method, I have no way of knowing. The godfather paused and said, I need a sample. Someone will pick it up from the bench under the biggest tree in the amusement park at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Su Yunxian curled her lips coldly. Godfather, did I say that I would give it to you? The godfather sneered. You can choose not to give it to me, but Bailey Han will receive our conversation tonight and all the conversations we had when you made the deal with me. What do you think? Su Yunxian's eyes flashed with a sinister light. Very well, you've threatened me. However, I have to remind you that if you dare to leak the drug, I, Su Yunxian, guarantee that you will die without a complete corpse. Under the moonlight, her smile was so eerie that it made people shudder. Her red lips parted slightly as she said word by word, including the person you care about. If I'm not wrong, it's because that person is addicted to drugs. That's why you need to detoxify drugs, right? The godfather's voice was low. Godfather, and I won't leak the drug, tomorrow at 3 o'clock. She smiled. No problem. Recording? That damned old fox. He actually dared to play dirty. She sneered. Beidengshun was truly ruthless and vicious. He actually took his revenge on her godfather. This was the perfect opportunity to extinguish the fire in her heart. Who is it? She quickly turned her head and looked sharply at the potted plant. There was no movement. She hesitated for a while and approached the potted plant carefully. When she was in front of the potted plant, she quickly turned around. There was no one behind the potted plant. Knock, knock, knock. At this moment, she heard hurried footsteps behind her. When she turned around, she only saw a shadow flashing behind the wall. Damn it. While she was inspecting this potted plant, he went around to the back of the other potted plant and then quickly slipped away. She didn't even see who it was. Su Yunxian grabbed the potted plant's yezi angrily and pulled it hard. She threw the yezi in her hand away and dusted her hands. She wanted to go back to her room to find the person who was eavesdropping on them. But when she was 2 steps away from the potted plant, she noticed something on the ground. She bent down to pick it up. It was a small button. The potted plant must have scraped off the person who was eavesdropping on them. Su Yunxian raised her eyebrows proudly and clenched the button tightly in her palm. Yunxian, why haven't you gone to bed yet? Su Yunxian ran into Bailey Han in his pajamas as she walked down the corridor on the 2nd floor. She approached him and smiled. After chatting with Grandma, I went to sit on the balcony for a while. Han, why haven't you gone to bed yet? I'm going to check on Xiaoyi. Bailey Han didn't know when it started, but he had developed a habit of going to his son's room to check on him every night before he went to bed. I'll go with you. Su Yunxian held his arm and the two of them walked to the door of Bailey Yi's room. They knocked lightly but no one answered. Bailey Han guessed that Bailey Yi was probably asleep. Bailey Han gently turned the doorknob and walked in. In the light of the corridor, Su Yunxian saw Bailey Yi lying quietly on the bed. He seemed to have fallen asleep. Her eyes fell on his white silk pajamas and her eyes flashed. Bailey Han walked to the bed with light footsteps and placed Bailey Yi's arm, which was outside the blanket, under the blanket. He's asleep. Let's go. He lowered his voice and said to Su Yunxian. Su Yunxian nodded and followed him out of the room. After the door closed, the little man suddenly opened his eyes. He pulled back the covers and jumped down from the bed. He was wearing white silk pajamas, but the button at the bottom of the pajamas was missing. You're so annoying. Where did it go? He frowned and looked around barefooted. Suddenly he looked up. It couldn't have fallen on the balcony, right? He frowned in distress. After thinking for a while, he decided to go to the balcony to look for it. He put on his shoes, found a small flashlight and sneaked to the balcony. He searched here and there but he couldn't find the button. D***MN it. It couldn't have been picked up by that annoying woman, could it? Are you looking for this? A slightly amused female voice suddenly came from behind him. Bailey was shocked. He turned around and saw Su Yunxian's smiling face. She was holding a white button in her hand. He looked cold and didn't say a word. She smiled affectionately. Xiaoyi, I thought you were already asleep. Bailey didn't say a word and walked past her. She looked at his back and said softly, Xiaoyi, what did you hear just now? He suddenly paused and replied coldly, we were so far away. I didn't hear anything. Bailey wasn't lying. He really didn't hear the conversation between her and his godfather, but he heard her call him Godfather. That's good. Here, I'll return the button to you. Don't lose it again. She bent down with a smile and handed the button to him. He took the button and said politely, Thank you, Auntie Yunxian. Good night. Good night. Su Yunxian patted his head. Her anxious heart relaxed. A child who was only 4 years old, no matter how smart he wouldn't be able to dig out anything from what she had just said. However, just in case, Su Yunxian contacted her godfather after returning to her room and changed the time and location of the transaction. The next morning, her godfather obtained a drug sample from Su Yunxian. Using his powerful connections, he sent the drug to the research lab for analysis and research to develop a drug withdrawal drug. However, drug withdrawal wasn't something that could be completed in a day or two. Before the antidote was developed, Su Xingchen could only accept his parents' arrangement and was secretly sent to a drug rehabilitation center. Su Morong thought that by sending her daughter to a drug rehabilitation center in the middle of the night, she could avoid being found out. She didn't expect that the next day news of a rich girl taking drugs and having a daring 4P with a cowherd would spread like wildfire on the internet. Su Morong was both anxious and anxious. She was so busy that she couldn't stop the news from spreading like wildfire. Just as she expected, the Su Corporation's shares fell rapidly. In the end, she had no choice but to negotiate with Mika Keto. Mika Keto refused to meet and asked Jiang Dao to deal with it. When Jiang Dao spoke with Su Morong, he clearly expressed that Mika Keto had nothing to do with him and was purely Su Xingchen's guess. In the end, Jiang Dao sneered, "If President Su can't produce evidence to prove that our president did it, then I hope that President Su will not act irrationally." Su Morong was furious, but she couldn't do anything. Everything was just her daughter's guess and there was no concrete evidence. If she fell out with the other party, she would only embarrass herself. Therefore, she suppressed her anger and left. However, her hatred for Xia Dong and Mika Keto deepened. In the drug rehabilitation center, Su Xingchen's drug addiction kicked in. Her body was in so much pain that it didn't feel like it belonged to her. She wailed in pain and rolled around on the bed. She watched as the medical staff injected her with drugs, but it didn't have any effect. It was so painful that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. She really did it. Her strength suddenly increased tremendously. She pushed away the medical staff beside her and slammed her head against the wall. Blood slowly flowed down her forehead. The medical staff quickly rushed forward to hold her hands and feet tightly. Someone took a rope to tie her up, and someone urgently treated the wound on her head. She laughed crazily and then burst into tears. What? She had used so much strength, but she was still conscious. Her body felt like it was being cut into pieces. It was so painful that she wanted to die. "Give me, give me, give me." She trembled and begged. She looked blankly at the white figure in front of her. "Give me drugs, give me drugs." "Miss Su, pull yourself together. It will be over soon." A cold female voice comforted her. But she didn't listen. Her mind was only filled with the word drugs. She crazily twisted her body trying to break the rope that tied her up. Because of her violent movements, the wound on her forehead that had just been treated began to bleed again. What do we do? The patient's emotions are too agitated. Inject her with a tranquilizer. Someone injected an injection into her arm. She gradually calmed down and fell into a deep sleep. When Su Xingchen woke up, it was already the morning of the next day. There were faint voices outside the window. Because of Su Morong's arrangement, she stayed in a special ward on the second floor. It was luxuriously decorated and had a complete set of appliances. Outside the window was a garden. She felt that the voices outside the window were particularly irritating. She unhappily frowned and moved her sore body. She was about to get out of bed and close the window when she inadvertently heard her name. She leaned against the window and carefully listened to the two people's conversation downstairs. The two people who were talking were women wearing hospital gowns. They should be the same as her, here to detox. Su Xingchen? You mean that rich girl who had a 4P with a male prostitute? Is she really in our detox center? Welfare Songshu 566. Chapter 124. Su Xingchen? Are you talking about the rich girl who had a 4P with a male prostitute? Is she really in our drug rehabilitation center? She'll lower your voice. She lives on the second floor. You haven't gone online today, right? Not only did she play with men, but she's also addicted to drugs. Otherwise, why would she be sent to the drug rehabilitation center? Wow, I didn't expect her to do such a thing when she looks so innocent and cute. The other woman laughed mockingly. Those rich families look bright and beautiful, but who knows if they're so rotten and dirty that it's unimaginable. Take Su Xingchen's mother for example. I heard that her current husband was snatched away by her. That man used to have a wife and daughter. No way, I've seen Su Morong's interview in a magazine. She looks so noble and elegant. How could she be a mistress and snatch someone else's husband? She's faking it. There's a saying that goes like a rich lady in front of people, but a slut in bed. That's a woman like her. Su Xingchen was so angry that she gnashed her teeth, her pretty cheeks were distorted. She casually picked up the vase on the table and threw it downstairs. Following a loud ping sound, 2 screams followed closely behind. Su Xingchen looked coldly at the 2 people downstairs. The woman who spoke ill of her mother held her leg and cried out in pain. Who threw the vase? Come out. The other woman said anxiously, don't worry about who threw it first. Your leg is bleeding a lot. I'll help you to see a doctor. The 2 left in a sorry state, leaving behind a floor full of broken porcelain and a pool of blood. Su Xingchen sneered. Looking at the wound on her forehead in the mirror, she broke the mirror in a fit of anger. Damn it, she cherished her face the most. Her forehead was actually injured. It would definitely leave a scar. Brother Han would definitely despise her. Xiaodong, it was all Xiaodong's fault. If it weren't for her, Mika Keto wouldn't have caused her to be so miserable. In Su Xingchen's rage, a thought suddenly sprouted. Xiaodong, didn't she just have a pretty face? If she was no longer beautiful, would those men still flock to her? This time she would not let anyone else do it. She wanted to see Xiaodong grovel in pain in front of her with her own eyes. No, not only Xiaodong but also Su Yunqian. 2 days, in 2 more days she would become Big Brother Han's bride. She would not allow it. Su Xingchen madly laughed. Her reason had already been corroded by jealousy and anger, and a vicious scheme gradually formed in her mind. In 2 days Su Yunqian, that annoying woman, would marry Daddy. How could she stop her? Bailey Yi sat in the classroom looking at the teacher seriously, but in his heart he was thinking about his own matters. Suddenly someone poked his arm. He turned around with a cold face. His desk mate shrunk his neck and carefully handed him a small ball of paper. He innocently pointed at Xia Xiaobao across the aisle. Bailey Yi turned his cold gaze to Xia Xiaobao. Xia Xiaobao pursed his lips, indicating for him to look at the paper. He took the crumpled paper ball in disgust and unfolded it. There was a line of Chinese characters written in crooked Chinese characters. Hey, annoying fellow, do you also hate Su Yunqian and don't want her to marry your father? Bailey Yi's handsome eyebrows furrowed. He raised his head and glared fiercely at Xia Xiaobao. He picked up his pen and quickly replied with a line of words. Xia Xiaobao read his reply and was so angry that he laughed. Hey, annoying fellow, what are you up to now? Xiaobao puffed up his cheeks, rolled his eyes and replied, annoying fellow, I'll see you by the flower bed after class. The paper ball was passed back to Bailey Yi. He glanced at it and threw it into the trash can with a cold face. Xiaobao shrugged. After class, Xiaobao squatted by the flower bed. He had been squatting there for almost 5 minutes, but the annoying Bailey Yi still hadn't arrived. He angrily poked the ants crawling around in the tree hole with a branch and muttered angrily, damn annoying fellow, why aren't you here yet? If you still don't come, I'll tell everyone that you like to eat candy. Bam. Xiaobao was hit hard on the head. He looked at the pebble that had jumped off his head and rolled to the ground. He raised his head fiercely and asked, who is it? On the tree, Bailey Yi patted the hand that had pinched the pebble and snorted disdainfully. Annoying fellow, I've been on your head for 5 minutes. When are you going to realize that I'm here? Xiaobao opened his mouth and kicked the tree trunk angrily. Annoying fellow, get down here. Bailey Yi sneered and slid down the tree trunk. He jumped in front of Xiaobao and raised his chin coolly. I'm down. What do you want? Xiaobao glared at him and he looked back at him disdainfully. Xiaobao suddenly raised his eyebrows and snorted. It looks like you don't want to work with me anymore. Forget it then. Just take it that I've suddenly lost my mind. I'm leaving now. After he finished speaking, he didn't wait for Bailey Yi's reaction. He turned around and walked calmly to the school building with his arms behind his back. Annoying fellow, wait a minute. Tell me clearly. How do you want to work with me? Bailey Yi's cold voice came from behind. Xiaobao raised his eyebrows proudly and turned around with a smile. Annoying fellow, you're smart. If I remember correctly, in 2 days Su Yunqian will be your new mommy. Do you really not mind? Bailey Yi's cold little face showed displeasure. Annoying fellow, don't say such useless things to provoke me. Tell me your plan first and I'll decide whether to work with you or not. Okay then. Xiaobao shrugged indifferently and approached him. He immediately took 2 steps back vigilantly with a look of disgust. What are you doing? Xiaobao rolled his eyes. Hey, you're not a girl. What can I do to you? Come here. I have something to tell you in private. Bailey Yi snorted awkwardly, but his legs moved Gigai towards him. The two little heads huddled together and whispered for a while until the bell rang to signal the start of class. On the way back to the classroom, Bailey asked, "Why did you help me?" Xiaobao chuckled. "Idiot, of course it's because I hate Su Yinxian. That annoying woman dared to bully my mommy. If I don't get back at her, I'll be letting down my surname." Bailey looked at him strangely. "Your daddy is Mika Keto. Why is your surname Xia?" Xiaobao glared at him. "Is there a problem with me taking my mommy's surname? Who made the rule that I have to take daddy's surname?" "Indeed, no one made the rule. Your mommy and daddy seem to know each other. Do you know what's going on?" Xiaobao rolled his eyes at him. "How would I know? Children shouldn't get involved in adult matters." "Who was the one who was discussing with him how to break up the adult's marriage?" Glamour Magazine, Chief Editor's Office. Xia Dong picked up the phone on the desk. "Hello, I'm Xia Dong." On the other end of the phone was a feminine man's voice. "Hello, Miss Xia. I'm Leo." Xia Dong was shocked. "Leo? Leo, the chief fashion designer of Yiwei?" "That's right. It's me." "Mr. Leo, why are you looking for me?" Yiwei was an internationally renowned fashion brand. The chief designer, Leo, was known as a genius designer and was very popular. Glamour magazine had wanted to do an exclusive interview with him before, but he rejected it. Leo's tone was arrogant. "Miss Xia, I heard from my assistant that your magazine wanted to do an exclusive interview with me. I didn't have time in the past, so I rejected it. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. if you still want to do an exclusive interview, then come to the church on time. By the way, I refuse to take photos, so you can come alone. I don't need a photographer." Xia Dong said, "Mr. Leo, I'm glad you changed your mind. But why do you want to do it at the church?" Leo said impatiently, "Because I've designed a dress for a fashion show on the lawn behind the church. If you don't have time, then pretend I didn't say anything. Goodbye." Before Xia Dong could say anything, the other party hung up the phone. She raised her eyebrows speechlessly. This Leo's character was really as bad as the rumors said? Although his character was bad, she still decided to meet him for the sake of the magazine. After all, it was a rare opportunity. Leo was naked and tied to the bed. The landline in his hand was snatched away by someone. His handsome face was extremely dark as he stared at the woman standing by the bed. The woman was wearing a tight black suit, big black sunglasses on her face, gloves on her hands and a gun. The muzzle of the gun was aimed at the handsome foreign man standing at the bathroom door. The handsome man was naked from the waist up, and his lower body was wrapped in a bath towel. His hair was still dripping wet. It was obvious that he had just come out of the shower and was caught red-handed. Leo said angrily, "I've done as you said. Hurry up and let Jerry and me go." Jerry was the handsome foreign man who had just come out of the shower. He was also Leo's lover. They had just finished their exercise in bed and Jerry had gone to take a shower. This damned woman barged in and tied Leo up. She then pointed a gun at Jerry, who had heard the commotion and came out to check. Then she used their lives to force Leo to call Xia Dong and say what he had said in her interview. The woman chuckled. "I didn't expect the famous designer Leo to be gay. If the media finds out, who knows how many women will be heartbroken." Leo said angrily, "We've agreed. I'll do as you say and you'll let Jerry and me go. Are you going back on your word?" The woman waved the phone in her hand. "Of course not. I'm just worried that you'll cause trouble for me, so I want to leave some evidence that can be used against me. Don't worry, as long as you Gigai don't talk nonsense, I won't expose these photos." Leo couldn't wait to pounce on her and tear her apart. "You better keep your word. If you go back on your words, I'll definitely not let you go." The woman chuckled and waved the gun, signaling Jerry to come over. She used a rope that she had already prepared and tied Jerry up. Then she locked the door and swaggered out. After she went out, she didn't immediately leave the hotel. Instead, she went into the bathroom, changed her clothes and took off her sunglasses, revealing Su Xingqian's sweet and charming face. Beauty novel Xinwu 799. Chapter 125. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Xia Dong brought Ding Hao to the church that Leo had mentioned. They went to the lawn behind the church but did not see any fashion show. However, there were people from the wedding company preparing the red carpet and wreaths. It seemed that a wedding was about to be held here. "Chief editor, how did this happen?" Ding Hao was confused. Xia Dong was also confused. "That's strange. Leo told me about it. How did this happen? Wait a minute. I'll call him and ask." She called the number that Leo had called yesterday but no one answered. She called his cell phone again but it was turned off. She frowned. Was Leo playing with her? While she was thinking, a strange and beautiful woman walked over. She asked hesitantly, "Are you the chief editor of Glamour magazine?" Xiaodong replied, "I am." "And you are?" The woman smiled and said, "I'm Leo's assistant, Ah Yen." Leo's runway show changed its location at the last minute. He asked me to wait for you here and take you there. After that, she turned her eyes to Ding Hao and asked, "This is?" Xiaodong introduced, "This is my colleague Ding Hao. He's in charge of photography." Ah Yen said awkwardly, "I'm sorry." Leo said that he only wants to see Miss Xia. Xiaodong smiled. Ding Hao is only taking photos of the fashion show. He won't expose Leo's image. Ah Yen said apologetically, "I'm sorry Miss Xia, Mr. Ding. I'm just following Leo's instructions." "Well, Ding Hao, you go back to the company first." Xiaodong did not force Ding Hao and let him go back first. Then she followed Ah Yen to see Leo. Ah Yen took her to the place where the wedding company was preparing for the wedding and said, "Miss Xia, wait here for 2 minutes. I'll go to the dressing room to get Leo." Although she was full of doubts, Xiaodong nodded. After waiting for a few minutes, Ah Yen and Leo did not appear. Just when Xiaodong was about to lose her patience, the wedding venue next to them was ready. A staff member held a walkie-talkie and said, "We're ready. Now let's welcome the priest and the newcomer." Since she had nothing else to do, she might as well just observe the ceremony. She found a good spot and turned her gaze to the entrance. The priest smiled as he walked onto the stage. Immediately after, a pair of well-dressed newlyweds walked in hand. Xiaodong suddenly opened her eyes wide. It was actually Bailey Han and Su Yunxian. The two of them also saw her. Bailey Han's deep eyes narrowed, and Su Yunxian's smiling face stiffened for a moment. Xiaodong smiled awkwardly and nodded at them. Her mind raced. Tomorrow was their wedding day. Today they should have come to the church to rehearse. Except for the first glance, Bailey Han treated Xiaodong as heir after that. He held Su Yunxian's arm and walked to the priest. Xiaodong stood not far away and watched them say, "I do," in front of the priest. She watched them look at each other affectionately. She watched them hug and kiss each other. She could not help but smile. This was the best ending. Suddenly, an accident happened. With a loud bang, the hydrogen balloon floating in the air with love written all over it suddenly exploded and instantly turned into fragments that fell like rain. Bailey Han pulled Su Yunxian away from the fragments. His concern was obvious. A staff member ran over and kept apologizing. Bailey Han said calmly, "It's okay. This was just an accident." The staff member smiled gratefully. "The wedding rehearsal is over. The two of you can go to the changing room to change. Miss Su, this way please." Su Yunxian was wearing a long wedding dress with a train. The staff member helped her carry the train to the changing room. "You can go out. I can do it myself." Su Yunxian smiled elegantly. The staff member left the room and stood at the door. He glanced around and quickly switched the women's changing room sign with the women's dressing room sign. The wedding rehearsal was over, but Leo still had not appeared. Xiaodong shrugged helplessly and decided to go to the dressing room to see if Leo was really there. Ah Yen suddenly rushed over. "Miss Xia, I'm sorry to have made you wait for so long. Leo is ready. Please go to the dressing room." Xiaodong followed her to the dressing room. When they reached the door, Ah Yen knocked on the door and said, "Xiaodong, Miss Xia is here." Su Yunxian was stunned. What was Xiaodong doing here? Ah Yen did not wait for the person in the room to answer. He opened the door gently and smiled. "Miss Xia, you can go in now." Xiaodong said, "Thank you." Just as she stepped into the dressing room, the door was locked. There were many clothes hanging in the room. A woman with long hair sat in front of the mirror. The woman turned her head and smiled. "Miss Xia." It was Su Yunxian. Xiaodong was stunned. She was here to see Leo. Why was Su Yunxian here? Where was Leo? "I'm sorry. I might have come to the wrong place." Xiaodong had a bad feeling. She walked quickly to the door and tried to open the door. However, the door could not be turned. It seemed that someone had locked it from the outside. Su Yunxian's smile turned cold. "Since there are only the two of us here, you can tell me the truth. Why are you here today?" Xiaodong gave up on the door handle. She wondered if Lu Xing had found out that she was trapped here. She said calmly, "Miss Su, you're thinking too much. I'm here for something else. The door has been locked from the outside. Let's think about how to get out first." Su Yunxian was not anxious at all. Anyway, Bailey Han would definitely look for her if he found out that she had not gone out for a long time. She raised her eyebrows and said, "What a coincidence. I'm rehearsing here and you're here for something?" Xiaodong's voice turned cold. It's just a coincidence. Of course, there's another possibility. I've been set up. This room didn't look like a dressing room at all. It should be a changing room. Why did that woman called Yen bring him here on purpose? Clap clap. A clear clapping sound came from behind the row of hanging clothes. Xia Dong and Su Yunqian looked over at the same time. A petite figure peeled off the clothes and slowly walked out. She had a charming smile on her face. As expected of big sister Xia Dong. You're so smart. Su Xingqian. Xia Dong and Su Yunqian's expressions changed at the same time. That's right. It's me. It wasn't easy for me to sneak out of the drug rehabilitation center to see you. Are you happy? Su Xingqian smiled at Xia Dong and said, Big sister Xia Dong, you're really smart. You know that you've been set up by me. However, your reaction is too slow. It's too late to react now. Xia Dong endured the throbbing veins on her forehead and said coldly, Su Xingqian, what do you want now? Su Xingqian walked in front of them and smiled happily. Actually, I don't want to do anything. I'm just a little angry that you've caused me to be so miserable. That's why I racked my brains to invite you all here so that we can have a good gathering. She stroked Su Yunqian's wedding dress that she had just changed out of and said with a smile, Big sister Yunqian, your wedding dress is really beautiful. It's a pity that the bride won't be able to match it soon. Su Yunqian's expression changed. What do you mean by that? Su Xingqian did not answer. Her gaze fell on Xia Dong's face and she chuckled. Big sister Xia Dong, your face is also very beautiful. No wonder Brother Han and Mika Keto both like you. Say, if it's not as beautiful as it is now, will they still like you? Xia Dong frowned and stepped back without a trace, pulling away from her. Su Xingqian, haven't you been punished enough? What are you still up to? There's no point in telling you. Su Xingqian seemed to have inadvertently reached out and picked up the glass spray bottle labeled makeup remover in front of the dressing mirror. Then with lightning speed she sprayed it at Xia Dong and Su Yunqian. Xia Dong was already on guard. The moment she picked up the glass bottle, she was ready to dodge. Coupled with her nimble movements, it was not difficult for her to dodge the liquid in the bottle. Su Yunqian was also very smart. She sensed that something was wrong from Su Xingqian's words. The moment she sprayed the liquid, she pulled the wedding dress in front of her. Unfortunately, Su Xingqian's main target was her. So even if she dodged her face and body, a few drops of liquid still stained the back of her hand. In an instant, the places that were stained by the liquid felt as if they were being burned. It was a burning pain. She cried out in alarm, Su Xingqian, what are you spraying? It's a strong acid. How is it? Do you like my present? Su Xingqian's smile was twisted. Seeing that Su Yunqian had something to cover her, she aimed the spray at Xia Dong again. The moment the strong acid was sprayed, Xia Dong suddenly crouched down and quickly pulled off a piece of clothing from the hanger to wrap around her head and face. Haha, you two look really pitiful right now. Su Xingqian knew that the door was locked by the people she bribed. He was not worried that they would escape at all and used his words to provoke them without restraint. Su Yunqian bit her lip. The back of her hand was hurting badly. If she did not escape, she might not be able to keep her face. While dodging Su Xingqian's attack, she moved closer to the dressing table. Her phone was there. She quietly stretched out her hand and took advantage of the time when Su Xingqian was attacking Xia Dong to secretly take the phone. She pressed the speed dial and dialed Bailey Han's number. Bailey Han changed his clothes and waited for Su Yunqian in the church. Suddenly he received her call. He pressed the answer button and heard her voice. Xingqian, don't be agitated. Put down the strong acid in your hand. If you have something to say, we can talk about it. Bailey Han suddenly got up and ran to the changing room. In the changing room, after Su Xingqian heard Su Yunqian's words, he laughed out loud. My good cousin, you want to stall for time and wait for Han Gij to save you? I advise you not to waste your time. Because I don't want to play with you anymore. I want to end this quickly. After speaking, Su Xingqian pulled out a gun from his waist and pointed the muzzle at Xia Dong's head. He sneered and said, Xia Dong, send my regards to your bitch mother who passed away. Attention Xingwu 799. Chapter 126. With that, Su Xingqian pulled out a pistol from his waist and pointed the muzzle at Xia Dong's head. He sneered, Xia Dong, send my regards to your bitch of a mother who has already passed away. Xia Dong stared at the black muzzle of the gun. She was so nervous that her back was sweating. She tried her best to remain calm. Su Xingqian, if you kill me, what awaits you will be a few decades of prison life. Do you want to spend the rest of your life in prison? Su Xingqian's eyes were wild. I've already thrown caution to the wind. If I can't have it, then no one else can. Xiaodong, don't worry, you won't be alone. Su Yunxian will soon accompany you. She gave a twisted and cruel smile and slowly pulled the trigger. Bang! A loud sound was heard. The door was kicked open and a black figure hugged Xiaodong like a bolt of lightning. Like a hunting leopard, he quickly brought her around and dodged Su Xingchen's muzzle. What came out of the muzzle was not a bullet but a liquid. The liquid stained the wall and the wall immediately began to bubble. Just as Xiaodong's heart was pounding, the black figure had already let go of her. His body was as fast as the wind as he pounced on Su Xingchen. His movements were fast and fierce. In the blink of an eye, the black figure had already grabbed her wrist. While the two were fighting for the pistol, the trigger was pulled. The black figure raised the muzzle and aimed it at Su Xingchen's face. The liquid from the gun accurately sprayed onto her face. She threw the gun away and covered her face with both hands as she screamed. Her skin was rapidly smoking and rotting at a speed visible to the naked eye. This frightening scene took place within a short span of 10 seconds. Xiaodong and Su Yunxian then realized that she was not using a real pistol, but a water gun filled with strong acid. Su Xingchen's hands trembled as he covered his cheeks. He wailed mournfully and staggered out of the changing room. The black figure did not chase after him. He turned around and faced Xiaodong. It was Lu Xing. His face was expressionless, but his eyes were filled with worry. Miss Xia, are you okay? Thank you, I'm fine. Xiaodong glanced at the place where Su Xingchen was just standing. There was still a strong acid on the floor. She could not help but feel a burst of fear. Su Yunxian's legs went soft. She held onto the dressing table to stand. She knew that if Su Xingchen succeeded and shot Xiaodong, she would be the second. Yunxian, are you okay? Bailey Han could tell that something was wrong from the phone call, so he hurried over. His hair was a little messy and he looked anxious. Han, I'm fine. Su Yunxian bit her lips. Her eyes were filled with tears. She seemed to be frightened. But the wedding dress is ruined. The wedding dress that she had used to block the strong acid had been corroded into tatters by the strong acid, and it was full of small holes. It's good that you're okay. Bailey Han's heart, which had been in his throat, returned to his chest. He hugged her tightly and looked around. Only then did he notice Xiaodong and Lu Xing's presence. Xiaodong was also in a sorry state. Even the small jacket she was wearing had a few small holes corroded, revealing the straps inside. Bailey Han's body stiffened. He wanted to let go of Su Yunxian, but she hugged him even tighter. Xiaodong smiled faintly. Mr. Bailey, Miss Su, I won't disturb you anymore. She and Lu Xing walked out of the changing room calmly. Miss Xia, Lu Xing suddenly called her. She turned around in surprise. A suit jacket was draped over her shoulders. Lu Xing's black-rimmed glasses covered his eyes. He said faintly, your clothes are torn. Xiaodong was embarrassed. She almost forgot that her jacket was corroded by the acid. Thank you. You're welcome. Xiaodong looked at his serious face and wanted to laugh. But when she thought of Su Xingchen who ran away, her heart sank. Lu Xing, Su Xingchen ran away. I'm worried that she won't give up. Lu Xing was expressionless. Miss Xia, don't worry. What awaits Su Xingchen is jail time. Xiaodong shook his head. The Su family is too powerful. Su Murong won't just watch her only daughter go to prison. Su Xingchen's crime is just intentional assault. Coupled with the attempted assault, there's no real evidence. Her crime seems too easy to exonerate. Lu Xing's lips curled up strangely. Miss Xia, you don't have to worry about this. I believe that boss will have a way. Just as Xiaodong and Lu Xing left, Bailey Han also walked out of the changing room with Su Yunxian in his arms. Su Yunxian leaned against his arm. The burned skin on the back of her hand had already been treated. Bailey Han sent her to the hospital. Although the burn area was not big, it would definitely leave a scar and it would take more than a week for the wound to heal. After leaving the hospital, Bailey Han drove Su Yunxian home. She bit her lip and said awkwardly, Han, we're going to have our wedding tomorrow. But the wedding dress is ruined and my hand is injured. What should we do? Bailey Han thought for a moment and said, the wedding dress is easy to solve. I'll ask Anson for help. As for the wound on your hand, he glanced at the back of her hand. After wearing white gloves, you can barely see the gauze on the back of your hand. We'll simplify the wedding and you won't have to work too hard. Su Yunxian tilted her head and looked into his eyes. She said firmly, the wedding will be held as usual. I'm fine, Han. I don't want our wedding to have any regrets. Okay, I'll listen to you. Bailey Han's lips curled up. When he was about to say something, his phone suddenly rang. He hung up the headset and heard Madame Gu's voice. "Okay, Grandma. We'll go back tonight." Bailey Han said a few words to Madame Gu and hung up the phone. He said to Su Yunqian, "Yunqian, Grandma said that she wants to see us tonight. She wants us to go home." Su Yunqian smiled, "Okay, but don't tell Grandma that I'm injured in case she's worried." Bailey Han changed the direction and the car drove to Bailey's old house. When they arrived at the old house, Madame Gu and Bailey Yi were playing chess in the living room. The old woman and the young man huddled together. Madame Gu cried, "No, no, Baby Yi, I regret it. I shouldn't have done this." Bailey Yi puffed up his cheeks and said helplessly, "Great-grandma, you've already regretted 5 moves. Then let me regret it again. Baby Yi, I'm your great-grandma. Don't be so calculative." Bailey Yi's little face scrunched up. Was this old child who always regretted her moves and refused to grow up really the strict and decisive Madame Bailey? Bailey Han couldn't help but smile when he saw Madame Gu's shameless look and his son's distressed little face. He held Su Yunqian's arm and walked towards them. "Grandma, we're back." Su Yunqian smiled, "Grandma Xiao Yi, you're playing chess." "Daddy, Auntie Yunqian." Bailey Yi stood up from the small chair and greeted them politely. Old Madame saw the bandaged back of Su Yunqian's hand at a glance. She looked concerned. "Yunqian, what happened to your hand? Is it serious? Come here and let me take a look." "It's nothing serious. I accidentally rubbed it." Su Yunqian let go of Bailey Han's arm and walked elegantly to Madame Gu's side and sat down. Madame Gu lifted her wrist and carefully examined it. "Oh, the bandage is so thick. Are you sure it's okay? Will it affect tomorrow's wedding?" "It's really fine, Grandma. Don't worry. It won't affect tomorrow's wedding." Madame Gu was relieved when she heard that it wasn't serious. She smiled and asked, "Did the rehearsal go smoothly today? Tell Grandma about it." Su Yunqian and Bailey Han looked at each other and said with a smile, "It went well. Grandma, why did you call us back?" "It's nothing serious. I just wanted to tell you guys to come back and tell you some things to pay attention to when you hold the wedding." Madame Gu asked them to sit beside her and told them a lot of details. They listened patiently and asked questions from time to time. Madame Gu was very satisfied with their serious attitude. After dinner, Bailey Han was called to the study by Madame Gu. "Han, I actually called you back today for something else." Madame Gu sat in the rattan chair with a hint of sadness in her eyes. "Xiaoyi called me today and said, Great-grandma, Daddy and Auntie Yunqian are married. Can I not call Auntie Yunqian Mommy? Great-grandma, when Daddy and Auntie Yunqian have Xiaobao, will they still love me?" Bailey Han's body stiffened and his chest suddenly tightened. Madame Gu wiped the corners of her eyes. "Han, I said this to tell you that no matter what happens in the future, Xiaoyi will always be Bailey's eldest grandson." Bailey Han couldn't describe his feelings at that moment. Bitterness, guilt, heartache all at the same time. He secretly clenched and unclenched his fists. After a long time he said, "Grandma, I understand. Xiaoyi is my son. I won't let him suffer in the slightest." "I'm relieved to hear that." Madame Gu nodded in satisfaction. Suddenly she thought of something and asked, "What's with the injury on the back of Yunqian's hand? Did she really scratch it?" Her eyes were burning and full of suspicion. Bailey Han knew that he couldn't hide it from her, so he briefly told her what happened in the afternoon. Madame Gu couldn't help but sigh. "I didn't expect Xingqian to be so vicious. Yunqian is her cousin." She deliberately avoided Xia Dong. Bailey Han pursed his lips and didn't say a word. Madame Gu seemed to have been hit by this incident. She waved her hand tiredly. "According to customs, Yunqian is getting married from her parents' home. It's getting late. You should send her back quickly. Let Xiaoyi stay in the mansion tonight." Bailey Han bid farewell to Madame Gu and walked out of the study. On the other side, Su Yunqian watched Bailey Han and Madame Gu go upstairs. She suggested that Bailey Yi go back to his room to rest. Bailey Yi dismissed the servants and sat down beside the unfinished game of Go. He didn't even raise his head as he answered, "Auntie Yunqian, please wait a moment." Su Yunqian could only sit beside him and watch him play Go with himself. His small face looked serious. Sometimes he frowned, sometimes he curled his lips, and sometimes he moved the Go pieces. After about 10 minutes, the sensor hidden under his sleeve suddenly vibrated. He nonchalantly pushed away the unfinished Go pieces and stood up. He smiled politely like a gentleman. "Auntie Yunqian, we can go now." Su Yunqian glanced at the Go board. "Why aren't you playing? You haven't finished yet, have you?" He shrugged indifferently. His rosy cheeks looked mature. "I'm bored. I'm not playing anymore." "All right, let's go upstairs." Su Yunqian's lips twitched. She smiled and bent down, wanting to hold his hand. He reached out his hand Gigai and let her hold it. She led him up the stairs. When they turned the corner, he suddenly looked up and asked curiously, "Auntie Yunxian, who is Godfather?" Su Yunxian was stunned for a moment. She suddenly laughed. "Xiao Yi, why did you suddenly ask this question?" Bailey looked innocent. He blinked and said, "Because I heard you talking to Godfather on the phone that night. I actually know who Godfather is. Godfather is the middleman of the murder organization in a city. Am I right, Auntie Yunxian?" When he heard the title Godfather, that night, he secretly looked up his identity, but he didn't find any information. Later Xia Xiaobao wanted to work with him, so he specially asked Xia Xiaobao. He didn't expect that guy to tell him that Godfather was the middleman of the murder organization just by typing on the computer. He was jealous of that guy's database for a long time. Su Yunxian's expression changed. She lowered her voice. "Xiao Yi, don't talk nonsense. The person on the phone with me that night was the priest of the church. We were discussing the wedding, not Godfather. But I heard it very clearly. You called him Godfather." Bailey raised his voice. His pink cheeks had an innocent look of doubt. "Auntie Yunxian, why did you contact Godfather? Are you going to ask him to help you kill people?" His voice was very loud and it sounded very clear in the empty stairwell. Su Yunxian panicked and subconsciously covered his mouth. "Xiao Yi, why would I do that kind of thing? Don't talk nonsense." Bailey struggled. He used both his hands to pry her hands away and kicked her calves. His bright eyes stared at her, making her feel like she was being seen through. She reflexively covered his mouth even harder. His mouth and nose were covered and he felt very uncomfortable. His white cheeks turned red and his black eyes were filled with tears. He looked extremely pitiful. Su Yunxian didn't feel any pity for him. She was panicking, afraid that he would tell others about this. Coincidentally, there was no one around, so no one would know what she was doing. Bailey suddenly bit her palm. His sharp teeth made her palm hurt, and she subconsciously pushed him away. Bailey Han came down from the study on the 3rd floor and slowly walked down. When he reached the stairs on the 2nd floor, he suddenly heard Bailey say loudly, "Auntie Yunxian, why did you contact Godfather? Are you going to ask him to help you kill people?" He suddenly stopped in his tracks. There was suddenly no sound downstairs. His heart tightened and he quickened his pace to run downstairs. Then he saw a shocking scene. His son rolled down the stairs and Su Yunxian stood on the stairs like a statue. She seemed to be scared out of her wits. "Come and see." Songshu 566. Chapter 127. Su Yunxian appeared to be scared out of her wits, but in fact she had already heard the sound of hurried footsteps. She rushed downstairs before Bailey Han could, shouting in a panic, "Xiao Yi, Xiao Yi." A black shadow suddenly flashed past. She was fast, but Bailey Han was faster than her. He sprinted madly, trying to catch the little ball that was rolling faster and faster, but he couldn't catch him no matter how hard he tried. Bailey Han simply threw himself forward and rolled down with all his might. The moment the little ball landed on the ground, he stomped his feet and crawled on the ground, using his own body to cushion his son's body. The moment Bailey hit his back, he quickly put his hands behind his back to protect him, then carried him to his front. "Xiao Yi, Xiao Yi." Bailey Han's low voice was filled with anxiety. He suddenly looked up at Su Yunxian, who was stunned. "What are you doing? Call an ambulance." This was the first time Su Yunxian had seen him so angry. She pinched her palm with her fingernails and quickly ran to the landline. His son's eyes were tightly shut. His little face was pale and bloodless and his forehead was bleeding. Bailey Han's heart ached. He picked him up from the ground and placed him steadily on the sofa. With such a big commotion in the living room, old Madam and the others were finally alarmed. They all came downstairs and saw Bailey lying there unconscious. They were so shocked that they almost fainted. With Bai Jinxiu's help, old Madam trembled as she approached. What's going on? How is Xiao Yi?" Xiao Yi was unconscious and Bailey Han's face was pale. He said in a low voice, "Xiao Yi rolled down the stairs and injured his forehead. We can only know if it's serious after the examination." Old Madam's body trembled, and Bai Jinxiu quickly held her and comforted her. "Mom, don't worry. Xiao Yi will be fine." The ambulance rushed over quickly, and Bailey Han followed them into the ambulance. The driver drove old Madam, Bai Jinxiu and Su Yunxian to the hospital. As soon as the doctor came out of the emergency room, Bailey's family members anxiously surrounded him. Old Madam asked anxiously, "Doctor, how is Xiao Yi?" Old madam, little young master's injury is not serious. It's just a slight concussion. You will wake up soon. Thank God, thank God. Old madam clasped her hands together and murmured. Bailey Han's face relaxed. Doctor, it's been hard on you. Young master, this is what I should do. After the doctor left, Bailey's family members, of course, Bailey Han, of course. Seeing his son lying quietly on the bed with a pale face and a slight frown on his handsome face, Bailey Han's heart tightened. Old madam burst into tears and held his little hand. No matter how her family members persuaded her, she insisted on staying by Xiao Yi's side and waiting for him to wake up. Su Yunqian stood by Bailey Yi's bed and comforted him softly at the right time. Bai Jinxiu said warmly, Han, you and Yunqian should go back and rest first. You will have to work hard tomorrow. Old madam and I will stay in the hospital tonight. Bailey Han looked at his son and said calmly, cancel the wedding first. What? Bai Jinxiu's eyes widened in shock. Han, do you know what you're talking about? Su Yunqian couldn't believe her ears. She widened her beautiful eyes and looked at Bailey Han, waiting for his explanation. Bailey Han's gaze swept across everyone present calmly and he said indifferently, Mom, you didn't hear wrong. I want to cancel the wedding. Yunqian, I'll take you home first. With that he turned to leave. Su Yunqian grabbed his arm and said in a trembling voice, Han, why? Why do you want to cancel the wedding? Is it because Xiao Yi is injured? Bailey Han suddenly turned around and stared at her with his deep and sharp eyes. His thin lips were tightly pursed as if he was restraining himself. After a long while he said in a cold voice, Yes, Xiao Yi is injured. As his father, I can't abandon him at this time. Su Yunqian's grip on his arm gradually tightened. Her beautiful eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She bit her lip and said pitifully, Han, let's postpone the wedding. Don't cancel it, okay? When Xiao Yi recovers we'll hold the wedding, okay? She was so compromising that even Bai Jinxiu couldn't stand it anymore. Han, Yunqian is right. If we suddenly cancel the wedding, what will everyone think of the Bailey family? Why don't we postpone it? Old Madame Bai also spoke. Han, why do you want to cancel the wedding? Bailey Han's face was gloomy and his eyes were filled with complicated emotions. He didn't say the reason but pushed Su Yunqian's hand away and said coldly, It's getting late. I'll take you home. Without saying another word he turned around and left. Su Yunqian forced a smile and said goodbye to old Madame Bai and Bai Jinxiu. When she walked out of the hospital, Bailey Han was already sitting in the car waiting for her. He didn't open the car door for her as usual. She opened the door herself and got in. With a cold face he didn't say a word and started the car. Outside the car window the night scene was gorgeous. She looked at his perfect side profile. Han, why did you cancel the wedding? I want to know the reason. Screech. With the sharp sound of the brakes, Bailey Han suddenly stopped the car by the side of the road. His thin lips were tightly pursed, indicating that he had tolerated it to the extreme. He stared at her with his cold eyes. Xiao Yi rolled down the stairs. It wasn't an accident, was it? Her heart tightened, but her face revealed a startled expression. Han, what do you mean by this? Little Wingzi accidentally rolled down the stairs. His eyes were filled with pain. You're still lying to me? I heard your conversation with Xiao Yi. Is it because Xiao Yi knows that you're in contact with Godfather that you're so cruel to him? Han, how can you say that about me? Am I that kind of cruel and merciless person? I like Xiao Yi and I want to be his mommy. How can I treat him like that? Su Yunqian complained with tears in her eyes. Han, so you've never believed me. You must think that Mika Kito is right and that I'm the mastermind behind the murder of Xia Dong, right? She looked like she was about to cry, and his heart softened for a moment. However, when he thought of what his son said and the dangerous moment when he rolled down the stairs, he couldn't help but doubt it. Yunqian, cancel the wedding first. I need to calm down and think carefully. He looked at her and said word by word, Xiao Yi is very important to me. I hope that the woman who marries me is sincere to him. Su Yunqian smiled miserably. I understand. In your heart, your son will always be the most important, right? No matter what I do, you won't believe me. 6 years of feelings in your heart, what is it worth? Bailey Han gripped the steering wheel tightly and said slowly, I love you and I love Xiao Yi. Whether or not Yunqian pushed him down the stairs on purpose, everything would be revealed when Xiao Yi woke up. The moment his son rolled down the stairs, his heart almost stopped. His son was a part of his life. As a father, he was no longer a good father. He couldn't be selfish anymore. He wanted his son to grow up healthily and happily. He knew that his son didn't like Yun Qian, but he deliberately ignored it. As a result, today's incident happened. It was time for him to think clearly. Bailey Han, the CEO of Shanghao Corporation, cancelled the wedding and became explosive news. However, it was quickly overshadowed by another piece of news. That was, Su Xingchen broke into the house and threatened to kidnap someone. At the same time, he deliberately hurt someone and threw acid at them. In the end, he ended up with a disfigured face. Xia Dong didn't know what methods Mika Quito used to expose Su Xingchen's kidnapping and threatening of Liu. She was sent to prison. Of course, Lu Xing disfigured her face, so it was justified as self-defense. Xia Dong also saw the news of Bailey Han canceling the wedding. Although the parties involved didn't mention the reason, she guessed that it was because Su Yunqian's hand was injured and couldn't hold the wedding as scheduled. She didn't think much about it. That day she asked the director to resign. The director was shocked and talked to her for a long time. When he found out that she was leaving to treat her daughter, he had no choice but to agree to her resignation. On the other hand, Mika Quito had already prepared the procedures to go abroad. She also arranged the company's affairs. She was waiting for Xia Dong to finish the handover. Then, the two of them would take the children to Rome. Xia Dong explained the situation to Yi Siki and took the children to her aunt's house to say goodbye. After hesitating for a long time, she said, "Aunt, I plan to take the children to Italy. It will take about 9 months before I return to China." "Why do you suddenly want to go to Italy? Did something happen?" Because she deliberately hid it, Xia Yun didn't know what happened during this period. She didn't know about Xiao Guai's illness and thought that she was just suffering from anemia. Xia Dong smiled. "No, Aunt. Didn't I tell you before that I found a foster father in Italy? He's not in good health and misses the children. So, I'm taking the children to stay with him for a while." Xia Yun patted her forehead. "Look at my memory. I remember now. How's his health? Is it serious?" "It's an old illness. It's not serious, but he needs to recuperate. He doesn't have any relatives, so I want to take care of him for a while." Xia Dong felt guilty when she lied to her kind aunt. "I see. Go ahead then. Your uncle and I are still healthy. Don't worry." Xia Yun smiled kindly and was very supportive of her actions. "I heard you say that when you were in Italy he helped you a lot. Now it's only right for you to accompany him." "Thank you, Aunt." Xia Dong hugged her shamefully. She smiled and patted Xia Dong's back. "Why are you thanking me? You're treating me like an outsider. Remember to call me often to let me know that you're safe. You also have to take care of Xiao Guai's health." Xia, when are you leaving?" "In a week. We'll leave after the handover of the company's affairs." Xia Dong was preparing to go abroad, but she didn't know that she couldn't leave anymore. Welfare Hongcha 866. Chapter 128. Xinghao Group. Bailey Han was gathering his subordinates to deal with the cooperation with the United States when his phone rang. He picked up the phone almost at lightning speed. His voice was low and a little hoarse. "Grandma, how is Xiao Yi?" Old Madame Han sighed. "Xiao Yi is awake, but you should come to the hospital." Bailey Han had been worried about his son when he was working. When he heard old Madame Han's words, his heart jumped again. He hung up the phone and said to his subordinates, "We'll talk about the cooperation in the afternoon." Then he took his car keys and left quickly. He drove all the way to the VIP ward. Old Madame Han was sitting by Xiao Yi's bed with red eyes. Xiao Yi had already woken up. He was lying on the bed expressionlessly with his small lips slightly pursed. "Grandma." Bailey Han greeted old Madame Han and bent down to touch his son's head. Xiao Yi tilted his head and dodged. Bailey Han sat down and softened his voice. "Xiao Yi, do you feel any discomfort?" Xiao Yi did not speak. His dark eyes stared quietly at the ceiling as if he did not hear his question. "Xiao Yi?" Bailey Han frowned. Was his son throwing a tantrum? "Don't shout. He can't hear you." Old Madame Han choked. Bailey Han's expression changed drastically. He reached out his hand, ignoring little Wingzi's attempts to dodge, and touched his head. Little Wingzi immediately shrieked like a frightened little beast, his hands and feet kicking around wildly. "Oh!" He screamed in horror. His eyes were full of fear, but he did not say anything. Bailey Han's heart sank. He quickly withdrew his hand. His screams gradually faded, and the fear in his eyes slowly dissipated. His bright black eyes became blank and dull. Bailey Han looked at his smart and obedient son suddenly become like this. His heart suddenly ached. "Grandma, what's going on? How did Xiao Yi become like this?" The old madam looked miserable. Xiao Yi became like this when he woke up. No matter how we called him, he didn't seem to hear us. If we tried to touch him, he would scream and become very emotional. The doctor said that this is a symptom of autism. Bailey Han did not believe that his son would be autistic. He went to the attending doctor's office with an ugly expression. "Doctor, my son has always been normal. How did he suddenly become autistic?" "Mr. Bailey, young master's autism is not caused by hereditary factors. Instead, he suffered a great shock in an accident, which caused the malfunction of his brain cells and affected the function of the brain's nerves to transmit information, which led to autism." Bailey Han's pupils suddenly shrank. "Can it be cured?" Based on the young master's condition, he is mainly affected by psychological factors. The possibility of recovery is still relatively high. But I suggest that parents don't be too impatient. Relax, relax, get rid of the child's negative emotions and communicate with him step by step. The doctor talked about a lot of precautions before treatment for autism. Bailey Han listened patiently and asked questions from time to time. In the process of talking with the doctor, his attitude became more positive. He believed that there would be a way to cure his son's autism. But the reality was that Bailey Yi's condition was getting worse and worse. He completely isolated himself in his own world and ignored the people and things around him. He silently did his own things. Sometimes he would draw, sometimes he would play chess with himself, sometimes he would sit in front of the window and stare blankly. Sometimes he would sit there for the whole day. As long as someone wanted to touch him, he would scream like a frightened little beast, baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. With his current condition, there was no way he could go back to school. He didn't even take the final exams. Although Bailey Han cancelled the wedding, which had a certain impact on the Bailey family and the Su family, the Bailey family was busy trying to find a way to cure Xiao Yi's illness. They didn't have the time to pay attention to the outside world. The Su family was different. First, there was the scandal of Su Xingqian. Then, the proud daughter of heaven, Su Yunqian and Bailey Han cancelled the wedding. Although it wasn't as sad as being abandoned, the inside story was enough for the media to speculate for a long time. The Su family's reputation fell to the bottom. Facing the swarm of media, Su Yunqian was indifferent and elegant. Her goddess-like temperament was vividly displayed. Although everyone was still speculating, their attitude towards her was a lot friendlier. She avoided the media and stepped into the hospital. This was the hospital where Su Xingqian was staying. Because Su Xingqian was splashed with strong acid, 20% of his face was severely burned. It was a third-degree burn. After being detained, he applied for medical parole through his connections. Now he was still staying in the hospital. When Su Yunqian went to visit him, Xia Jinxing was by his bedside. He looked a lot older and the hair on his temples was white. As for Su Xingqian, her entire head was wrapped in gauze, only revealing 2 eyes. Because of the burns on her respiratory tract, she couldn't open her mouth to speak. When she saw Su Yunqian appear at the door of the ward, her eyes were like copper bells. Her gaze was like a sharp blade, fiercely glaring at Su Yunqian. She made a gurgling sound from her throat and raised her hands in agitation, as if she wanted to strangle her. Xia Jinxing quickly grabbed her arm. "Xingqian, don't be agitated. Be careful of your wound." Su Yunqian's eyes flashed with a trace of ridicule. She had a gentle smile on her face. "Uncle, I'm here to see Xingqian. How is she now?" Xia Jinxing sighed. "Her situation isn't very good. The burns on her skin are very deep. I heard from the doctor that we can only use conservative treatment now. Only when her wound scabs over can we perform skin grafting surgery." Su Yunqian turned her gaze back to Su Xingqian and said gently, "Xingqian, you have to listen to the doctor's words and take care of yourself. You'll get better." Xia Jinxing said guiltily, "Yunqian, Xingqian treated you so badly but you still came to see her. I apologize on behalf of Xingqian." Su Yunqian smiled. "Uncle, you're treating me like an outsider. We're family. No matter what Xingqian did, she's still my cousin." Su Xingqian's eyes widened. She wanted to dig a few holes in her body with her gaze. The gurgling sound from her throat also became louder. Su Yunqian held her hand that was grasping in the air and said gently, "Xingqian, I know what you want to say. Don't worry, I've already forgiven you. Don't let your thoughts run wild. Take care of yourself and get better soon." Su Xingqian couldn't care less about the piercing pain on her face. She shook her bandaged head. "Xingqian, don't be so agitated. I'll visit you again in the future." Su Yunqian thoughtfully patted the back of her hand. She stood up and said to Xia Jinxing, "Uncle, I'll leave first. I won't disturb Xingqian's rest." Yunxian, thank you for visiting Xingqian. Be careful on your way back. Xia Jinxing walked her to the door. Okay, uncle. You should go back and take care of Xingqian. Walking out of the hospital, Su Yunxian smiled. Han was suspicious of her. He didn't care about her reputation and cancelled the wedding. Now, he didn't even take the initiative to contact her. She was extremely depressed. Now that she had visited Su Xingqian, she felt much better. Su Yunxian didn't go back to the company. Now that Han was ignoring her, it was better to start with the old madam. She drove to the old mansion and chatted with the old madam for a while. After confirming that Han didn't tell the old madam what Xiaoyi said, she felt much more at ease. Next, she wanted to check on Xiaoyi. She wanted to see how sick he was and whether he would tell anyone about her. After greeting the old madam, she was led by a servant to Bailey Yi's room. The servant reminded her, Miss Su, the young master hates being touched. Please don't touch him. Su Yunxian nodded. I understand. You can leave first. After watching the servant leave, Su Yunxian locked the door and walked in. Bailey Yi sat in the empty art room. His small body was standing in front of the easel. He held a watercolor pen in his hand and painted on the canvas. Xiaoyi? Su Yunxian approached him and tried to call his name. He turned a deaf ear and didn't respond at all. His hands continued to paint. His bright black eyes quietly stared at the canvas. He was completely immersed in his own world. Su Yunxian walked to his side. When she saw what he had painted, she couldn't help but be shocked. On the large canvas there were only two colors, black and red. There was not a trace of light in the dark sky, and the ground was covered in the bright red color. A lonely little figure stood between the black and red colors, and the whole picture was shrouded in a strange and frightening atmosphere. Su Yunxian stretched out her hand and pointed at the little figure in the painting. Xiaoyi, is this you? Xiaoyi still didn't say a word. He picked a white watercolor pen and painted on the outline of the little figure. Soon, the white figure became conspicuous at the intersection of the black and red. However, with the overall color combination, it became even more strange. Xiaoyi. Su Yunxian stretched out her hand tentatively. He didn't move and looked at the canvas seriously. Her slender and fair fingers slowly landed on his thin and weak shoulders. Xiaoyi seemed to have gone crazy. He kicked and hit her violently and scratched her arm with his fingernails. This scream came from Su Yunxian. There were 3 red scratches on her arm. She quickly withdrew her hand and retreated away from him. What's wrong? What's wrong? Miss Su, hurry and open the door. Hearing the scream, everyone in the villa was alarmed. The servants who rushed over first kept knocking on the door. It's nothing. Wait a moment. I'll open the door right away. Su Yunxian glanced at Bailey Yi, who was still screaming. She tidied her hair and quickly walked forward to open the door. Little young master, the servant wanted to go forward, but he was afraid of disturbing Bailey Yi. He didn't know what to do. At this moment, the old madam rushed over with her walking stick. Trembling, she walked to Xiao Yi's side. She didn't dare to reach out to hug him. She only comforted him gently. Darling, don't be afraid. Great-grandma is here. Ad Hongcha 866. Chapter 129. The servant hurriedly brought a chair over and placed it beside old madam. Old madam sat down and looked at Bailey Yi, who was holding his head and screaming. She coaxed him gently over and over again. After an unknown amount of time, little Wingsy finally calmed down. He picked up the paintbrush again and painted on the canvas as if nothing had happened. Old madam endured the intense heartache and praised him with a smile. Baby is so amazing. The painting is so beautiful. Xiao Yi's small body stood upright like a statue without any reaction. Let's go. Let's not disturb Baby Yi. Old madam sighed in her heart and stood up with the help of the servant. After walking out of Xiao Yi's room, Su Yunxian followed old madam to the living room. Old madam asked someone to do a simple treatment for her wound. Su Yunxian looked apologetic. Grandma, it's all my fault. If I hadn't caught Xiaoyi that night, he wouldn't have fallen down the stairs and this wouldn't have happened. Old madam sighed. It's not your fault. Yunxian, why did Xiaoyi suddenly fall ill? Su Yunxian felt even more apologetic. I wanted to communicate with Xiaoyi and see if I could get his attention. I didn't expect him to suddenly scream when I pointed at the painting and praised him, old madam said doubtfully. Xiaoyi only gets emotional when others touch him. Are you sure you didn't touch him? I really didn't. I only touched his painting. I didn't expect it to turn out like this. Grandma, I'm sorry, old madam frowned. Could it be that Xiaoyi's condition has worsened? What should we do? Su Yunxian said, Grandma, I've asked some doctor friends. They said that it's best to send Xiao Yi to a rehabilitation center. They have professional rehabilitation training that will help Xiao Yi. The old madam also understood that this was a good idea, but Xiao Yi's identity was special. She was worried that it would cause unnecessary trouble. After thinking for a while, she said, Why don't we hire a psychotherapist to treat Xiao Yi at home? In the evening, when Bailey Han came back from the company, the old lady told him about her idea. Of course, Bailey Han did not object, but he refused the psychotherapist introduced by Su Yunxian. Before the truth was made clear, he was already on guard against her. After pondering for a moment, he said, Grandma, don't let Yunxian get close to Xiao Yi in the future. Why do you say that? Old madam's eyes flashed sharply. She was suspicious. He said faintly, Xiao Yi was too emotional when she saw her. I'm just thinking for Xiao Yi's sake. I don't mean anything else. When he heard Xiao Yi's words on the stairs, he did not tell anyone because he did not want to wrongly accuse a good person. Deep in his heart, he hoped that Xiao Yi's words were false. He also hoped that Su Yunxian had nothing to do with Xiao Yi's accident. In fact, Bailey Han had also consulted many experts and contacted a top psychotherapist. The psychotherapist was called Lin Yi. He was around 30 years old. He was polite and gentle. Every day he would go to Bailey's old house and treat Bailey Yi for an hour. Lin Yi advised the parents to maintain a fixed time every day to communicate with the child alone. Even if the child did not respond, they should insist on talking to him or doing something to cultivate his understanding of the outside world. Lin Yi said, the lack of social skills is the biggest obstacle for an autistic child. Parents should create opportunities for the child to interact with people around him. Young master has many friends in kindergarten. You can invite them to the house as guests. You can also raise some small animals at home so that young master can reduce his fear of social interactions and improve his social skills in the process of raising animals. Looking at his son sitting alone in the corner, Bailey Han's heart ached. He suddenly realized that his son was very lonely. He lacked maternal love since he was young and did not have any playmates of the same age. Although he was young, he had already developed a restrained and calm personality. He would not even show his emotions on his face. After thinking for a long time, Bailey Han called Xia Dong. At this time, Xia Dong had already finished the handover work. Mika Keto had also booked the plane tickets for the four of them to fly to Italy. She was packing at home when she suddenly received a call from Bailey Han. She glanced at the children playing in the living room and returned to her room. She pressed the answer button. Hello, Mr. Bailey. Bailey Han paused and said, Xia Dong, I want to ask you for a favor. His voice was very sincere. Xia Dong could even imagine his serious expression. Tell me. If I can help, I will definitely do it. His voice lowered with an imperceptible heaviness. My son, a few days ago he fell down the stairs. Xia Dong stood up abruptly and asked agitatedly, Is he all right? Bailey Han rubbed his eyebrows. He was not seriously injured. However, after he woke up he was diagnosed with autism. The doctor said that it was because of the stimulation that caused his brain cells to malfunction. Autism? Xia Dong sat down on the sofa dejectedly. There was still a trace of panic on her face. Can it be cured? There is a possibility of a cure. Bailey Han spoke conservatively of the doctor's opinion. According to the psychotherapist, it is best to let Xiao Yi interact more with the people around him. Therefore, I want to invite Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai to accompany him at home. Xia Dong held her forehead and was extremely conflicted. Xiao Yi was diagnosed with autism. She was very worried and wanted to accompany him and help him out of his own world. However, she had always protected Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai from the Bailey family. If she really brought them to the Bailey family, would it arouse suspicion? Moreover, with Xiao Guai's current situation, he could be in danger at any time. She did not dare to send her daughter to the Bailey family. Both the palm and the back of the hand were flesh and blood. How should he choose? She did not know what to do. After hesitating for a long time, she asked in a hoarse voice, Can I find other children? There was no emotion in his voice. Xiao Yi doesn't have any friends. If you don't want to, I won't force you. The phone call ended. Xia Dong held the phone and her heart ached. The words doesn't have any friends kept echoing in her mind. She could almost imagine how lonely Xiao Yi must be. He had no siblings, no playmates, no mother's love. Even though he was injured, he still armed himself with a cold expression. He was only 4 years old. She bit her fist hard as tears of heartache flowed down her cheeks. Knock knock. There was a knock on the door. She quickly wiped her tears and forced a smile in the mirror. When she opened the door, she was stunned. "Brother Shen, why are you here?" Mika Kito could tell at a glance that her eyes were red. He frowned. "What happened?" She invited him in. "I'm fine. How about you? Why didn't you go to the office?" Mika Kito sat down on the chair. "I've already settled the matters at the office. I came to see how your luggage is." His deep black eyes landed on her face and he said in a domineering tone, "Tell me what exactly happened?" Xia Dong knew that she could not persuade him, so she told him about Bailey Han's call and her dilemma. Mika Kito did not expect to encounter such a tricky situation before he left. His eyes darkened. He poured a cup of tea and placed it in front of her. "Xia, I know that you have always felt guilty towards that child and want to make it up to him. However, you are pregnant now. This is a critical time. I don't want anything to happen to you." "I know. Xiao Guai is still waiting for me to give birth to the baby safely." Xia Dong stroked her abdomen and smiled bitterly. "But Xiaoyi is also my child. I really can't ignore him at this time." Mika Kito's eyes flashed with helplessness. He actually had selfish motives. He wanted to take her away from here and not be involved with Bailey Han. However, fate always played tricks on people. His eyes darkened. Xia, you've already made your decision, haven't you?" Xia Dong leaned against the sofa and supported her forehead with one hand. She looked a little tired. "Brother Shin, I want to stay and help Xiao Yi cure her autism." She smiled at him. "Su Xingchen is already in prison. I don't think anyone will harm me anymore." Mika Kito shook his head. This girl was still too naive. She did not know that Su Xingchen had a backer. Otherwise, how could she have planned such a big conspiracy by herself? However, he knew that it was useless for him to say anything. Since she had already made her decision, he could only support her. He frowned and said, "Xiao Guai's health is not good. It's better not to let her go to Bailey's house. I'll talk to Xiao Bao." Xiao Bao and Bailey Yi were sworn enemies. It would be difficult to persuade him to visit Xiao Yi like a close friend. Sure enough, as soon as Mika Kito mentioned this matter, the little girl was like a firecracker. She jumped on the bed unhappily. No. Why should I help him? I want to go to Rome. I want to see God Grandfather. I don't want to stay here. Mom can't stay here either. His mother was always in danger here. He did not want his mother to take risks for that annoying Bailey Yi. Mika Kito rubbed his head. "Xiao Bao, stop messing around. I know you're worried about your mommy. I'll protect her." Xiao Bao pouted. "Then what about Sweetie?" "What about Sweetie? Gigai will also stay in China. When Xiaoyi recovers, we'll go to Italy." Xiao Bao disagreed. It was autism. How could it be cured in 2 or 3 days? It seemed that they would not be able to leave in a short period of time. However, how did Bailey Yi, that annoying fellow, contract this disease? Autistic? More like arrogant. "Xiao Bao, Gigai, be good. Don't make things difficult for your mommy." "All right then. I want to make it clear that I'm not staying for that annoying guy. I'm staying for mommy." "I know. You love your mommy the most." Mika Kito rubbed his hair in amusement. In the living room, Xia Dong called Bailey Han back. She tried to speak in a calm voice. "Mr. Bailey, when do you think it's convenient? I'll send Xiao Bao to Bailey's house." Welfare Hongcha 866. Chapter 130. Bailey Han tightened his grip on the phone. Only he knew how shocked he was. "What do you think about 4 o'clock every afternoon?" "No problem, I will send Xiao Bao there on time." Xia Dong paused and asked nervously, "Can I see Xiao Yi?" Bailey Han was silent for a few seconds. "Okay, I will arrange it." Actually, Bailey Han was also in trouble. He had just mentioned his idea to the old madam, but the old madam had vetoed it. No matter what, she would not allow Xia Dong's son to accompany Xiao Yi. "Is it Xia Dong calling? Tell her that we don't need her fake kindness, and we definitely won't allow Xiao Bao to walk through the Bailey family's door." When Bailey Han picked up the phone, the old madam was in the living room shouting angrily. Bailey Han was helpless. "Grandma, I am doing this for Xiao Yi's sake." The old madam raised her voice. "Xiao Yi has so many classmates. Why did she choose Xiao Bao? I hate Xia Dong. I will not allow anyone with the surname Qi to come close to our house." The old madam's stubborn temper was acting up again. Bailey Han was speechless. "Grandma, although Xiao Yi has many classmates, she has never dated them. Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi have similar personalities. Who knows, she might be able to stimulate him. I don't understand. Why do you hate Xia Dong so much?" The old madam choked and said angrily, There is no reason. I just hate her. Grandma, can you not be so unreasonable? Because of his son he was already in a terrible fix. It was really hard for him to coax the old madam. He rubbed his eyebrows and said, I have already talked to Xia Dong. She will bring Xiao Bao over at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I will try my best to rush back tomorrow. Why are you coming back? Are you worried that I will give her a hard time? Bailey Han's mouth twitched as he hit the nail on the head. Old madam exclaimed, No, I haven't agreed to let her come over. Grandma, he was at his wit's end with this stubborn old child, so he brought up his precious son. Grandma, do you want to see Xiao Yi continue to be like this? Trust me, doing this will be good for Xiao Yi's condition. The old madam turned her gaze and saw her precious great-grandson standing by the window in a daze. The resentment and anger in her heart gradually dissipated. She had heard of Xia Xiaobao and knew that he was very smart. Every time her little great-grandson mentioned him, he would gnash his teeth in anger. She wasn't that old and senile. She could tell that although they were rivals, there was a faint sense of empathy between them. Perhaps Xiaobao could really stimulate Xiao Yi and improve his condition. She pondered and struggled for a long time, unable to make up her mind. Suddenly Xiao Yi, who was standing by the window with her back facing them, turned around and silently sat by the chessboard to play chess with herself. Bailey Han said indifferently, Grandma, do you want to keep watching Xiao Yi play chess with yourself? Which child of the same age didn't play in groups? Only Xiao Yi was always alone and didn't have any friends. The old madam closed her eyes and sighed. Forget it, forget it. Let them come. However, I have a condition. You can't let Xia Dong see Xiao Yi. If the mother and son met, what if Xia Dong had any ideas? Bailey Han frowned. I've already promised her. A strange smile appeared on the old madam's lips. So what if you've agreed? Anyway, the decision is in my hands. Don't worry, I won't embarrass her tomorrow. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Xia Dong drove the BMW with Xiao Bao to the old Bailey residence. A servant led them in. The housekeeper was waiting at the door and bowed politely. Miss Xia, please rest in the living room. Young Master Xia, please follow me upstairs. Xia Dong's eyes moved. Housekeeper, I want to go upstairs to see young master. The housekeeper looked troubled. Miss Xia, I'm very sorry. Without the old madam's permission, no one can see young master. Bailey Han had already promised her, but now the old madam jumped out to block her way. Xia Dong wanted to flip out, but she thought that there was still a long way to go, so she controlled herself. She bent over and reminded Xiao Bao, Bao Bao, remember mommy's words. You have to be friendly to Xiao Yi. Don't worry, Mom. I know what to do. Xiao Bao pouted disapprovingly. He waved his hand and swayed his little butt as he followed the housekeeper upstairs. Xia Dong watched their figures disappear at the top of the stairs before she sat down on the sofa. Immediately, a servant came forward to make her a cup of tea and considerately brought her newspapers and magazines. The living room was very quiet. The servant looked down and stood to the side. Xia Dong casually flipped through the magazine. On the surface, she looked like she was staring at the magazine, but in reality she was listening attentively, hoping to hear what was going on upstairs. However, she was disappointed. Other than the sound of her flipping through the magazine, she couldn't hear anything else. On the second floor, Xia Xiaobao swaggered into Bailey Yi's room. In front of the large floor-to-ceiling window, a small figure was sitting on the ground. He was facing the window, holding a thick book and reading quietly. There were many books scattered around his feet. Xiaobao glanced at the housekeeper standing at the door. His pink cheeks puffed up and he quickly ran to Bailey Yi's side. He squatted down and looked at the book in his arms. He exclaimed, Not bad, you're actually reading Sun Tzu's Art of War. Can you understand it? Bailey Yi ignored him and focused on reading his book. It's so boring. Xiaobao shook his head and sat down. He moved his little butt to Bailey Yi's side and nudged him with his elbow. Hey you jerk, I'm a guest and you're the host. How can you leave me here and read by yourself? That kid poked the young master. The housekeeper was on high alert, waiting for his young master to scream and fly into a rage. But to his surprise he did not react at all. The housekeeper could not help but rub his eyes, thinking that he was seeing things because of his age. Oh, you jerk, at least pay attention to me. Xiao Bao had been acting alone for a long time and was starting to go crazy. He shamelessly lay on the ground and rolled around, bumping into Bailey Yi from time to time. He did not dodge, nor did he scream. He was as quiet as a statue. The housekeeper, who had been standing upright, began to stiffen. His eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. Oh, he was not seeing things. The young master did not reject Xia Xiaobao's touch. It was too touching. He had to report this to the old madam immediately. The old housekeeper threw the surveillance mission that the old madam had given him to the back of his mind. He ran out of Bailey Yi's room with tears streaming down his face and rushed up to the study on the third floor. His footsteps were so vigorous that it was impossible to tell that he was in his 60s. Xia Xiaobao glanced at the empty doorway and quickly rolled to Bailey Yi's side. He kicked his little butt. Hey Bailey Yi, there's no one here now. You don't have to pretend anymore. Bailey Yi did not move or speak. Xia Xiaobao climbed up and moved closer to him. He blinked his big eyes and looked at him. Bailey Yi, I asked you to pretend that you were hurt by an annoying woman. Your father, who dotes on you, will definitely hate that woman. I didn't expect you to be such a genius and come up with something like autism. I can't even go to Italy because of you. You're so annoying. Bailey Yi still didn't speak. He quietly flipped through the pages of the book. *CK, are you addicted to pretending? Xia Xiaobao was angry. No one had ever dared to ignore him to such an extent. He snatched the book from Bailey Yi's hand and threw it to the door. A pair of feet and a crutch appeared at the door. The old madam lowered her head and glanced at the book, Sun Tzu's Art of War, lying at her feet. Then she calmly looked at Xia Xiaobao. This was the first time she had looked at Xia Xiaobao carefully. The short man was wearing a white t-shirt and denim shorts. His facial features were extremely delicate and he was not inferior to her precious great-grandson. He blinked his bright eyes innocently and had an innocent smile on his pink cheeks. His handsome and cute appearance made people want to take pity on him. The old madam smiled kindly. You're Xia Xiaobao? Yes. Xiaobao wasn't afraid at all. He straightened his little body and raised his little chin to introduce himself seriously. I'm Bailey Yi's classmate Xia Xiaobao. The old madam walked over with her crutch and said with a smile, Xiaobao, thank you for coming to visit our Xiao Yi. You're welcome. He had an arrogant look on his face. Although I don't really like Bailey Yi, my mommy told me to be friendly to my classmates. So, I will reluctantly visit him every day. The old housekeeper behind the old madam stumbled and almost fell. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. The old madam didn't mind his rude words. In fact, she liked his straightforward personality. She nodded approvingly. Xiaobao, you and our Xiaoyi have similar personalities. I think you two will become good friends. Unfortunately, Xiaobao was Xia Dong's son. She really didn't want to have anything to do with that woman. The old madam's smile gradually faded when she thought of this. She said indifferently, What game were you playing just now? Why did you throw the book at the door? Xiaobao keenly sensed the change in her attitude. He snorted softly and walked over to Bailey Yi. We were competing to see who could throw the book further. Bailey Yi, don't you think so? He patted Bailey Yi's shoulder with his small hand. The old madam and the old housekeeper widened their eyes. What a miracle. Xiaoyi really didn't scream or flip out. Although he didn't answer, he didn't reject other people's touch. This was a huge improvement. The old madam couldn't help but reach out her trembling hand and slowly place it on Bailey Yi's shoulder. He didn't scream. He was very quiet, quietly looking at the scenery outside the window. The old madam's eyes couldn't help but redden. She was so emotional that she covered her mouth and held back her tears. Attention, Songshu 566. Chapter 131. Old Madame Dowager wanted to hug his soft little body tightly, but she didn't dare and forced herself to hold back. He was looking out of the window with all his attention. She followed his gaze and saw a few pots of flowers blooming on the balcony. There was nothing special about them, but he was looking at them very seriously. Old Madame Dowager had mixed feelings. She was happy and sad at the same time. When she looked at Xia Xiaobao again, her eyes were sincere. Xiaobao, Xiaoyi seems to like you a lot. Come and accompany him every day in the future. If you need anything, just tell Great-Grandma. Great-Grandma will definitely satisfy you. Xia Xiaobao was a little angry. This old grandma wasn't cute at all. She was warm to him one moment and cold to him the next. When she saw that he could be used, she immediately seduced him with benefits. But his mother had told him not to get into a conflict with Bailey's family, so he reluctantly paid attention to her. He blinked and revealed a sweet and innocent smile. There were even 2 cute dimples on his cheeks. Great-Grandma, can I have anything I need? Old Madame Dowager nodded. His smile became even sweeter. I want my mommy to play with us. My mommy knows a lot of games. With her company, Bailey Yi will definitely recover faster. It was so boring to play with just the two of them. Also, his mother seemed to want to visit Bailey Yi very much. Although he didn't know why, he was happy as long as his mother was happy. Old Madame Dowager frowned. This? He puffed up his cheeks and said angrily, you can't even agree to such a simple request. Sigh, you adults just like to go back on your words. Old Madame Dowager struggled for a few seconds but still refused. This condition won't do. Xiao Bao, change it. Xiao Bao waved his little hand impatiently. Forget it, forget it. Adults are so wishy-washy. I'm so annoyed. I'm going back first. He moved closer to Bailey Yi and chuckled. Bailey Yi, I'll be leaving first. I'll come back to see you tomorrow. I'll bring you something fun tomorrow. Regardless of whether Bailey Yi was pretending or not, it was very boring to just sit there all day. He would be kind and save him this time. After all, he was a good person. Xia Xiaobao stroked his chin and smiled proudly. Old Madam this? The old butler looked at Xia Xiaobao, who was skipping away with an awkward expression. Forget it, let him go. Xiao Yi is no longer against other people touching her. That's already a huge improvement. Old Madam shook her head. In the living room, Xia Dong heard footsteps running up the stairs. She looked up and saw Xiaobao running over with a smile. She hugged him and wiped the sweat off his forehead. Baby, why are you running so fast? How's Xiao Yi's condition? Is it serious? Xiaobao puffed up his cheeks and thought for a few seconds. It seems quite serious. He didn't pay attention to me from beginning to end. I just kept talking to myself. Xia Dong's body stiffened and her expression turned ugly. Xiaobao rolled his eyes and said, but I heard from that grandma that his condition is getting better. He didn't scream when I touched him. Xia Dong's frown eased. As long as there was hope for him to get better, it was fine. Holding her son's hand, she walked out of Bailey's house. Xia Dong went to the parking lot to get her car. She saw a Lamborghini drive over and stop in front of her. The car door opened and a handsome and tall figure stepped out of the car. He was wearing a black shirt with the top two buttons unbuttoned, revealing his sexy chest. He wore tight jeans that hugged his enchanting waist and perky butt. He wore a pair of sunglasses that revealed his high nose and thin lips. He swung his beautiful long legs gracefully, and his devilish aura was unstoppable. She hadn't seen Bailey Yun for more than a month. She didn't expect him to be even more devilish than before. Bailey Yun put a finger to his mouth and whistled. A snow-white furry thing suddenly jumped out of the back seat of the Lamborghini. It happily swung its long fur and pounced on Bailey Yun. All right, Dowdu, stop fooling around. Bailey Yun patted the big dog's head and ruffled it. A handsome man who looked thin and weak walked over gracefully with a big dog that weighed more than 50 kilograms. Xiaobao tugged at Xia Dong's arm. Mom, what kind of creature is that? Xia Dong whispered, Son, that's the legendary Tibetan Mastiff. Bailey Yun took off his sunglasses and raised his foxy eyes. His lips curved into a cold smile. Oh, isn't this the fiancé of the great CEO Beitang? Xia Dong's mouth twitched. Fox, we haven't seen each other for more than a month. Is it necessary to mock me as soon as we meet? Bailey Yun's smile was cold. So you still remember me. I'm really honored. It's harder than ascending to heaven to see you. This woman had gotten engaged out of nowhere. He wanted to ask her about it, but he was always stopped by strange people. Later he heard that she was sick. When he went to her house, the nanny said that she wasn't around. In short, it was harder than ascending to heaven for him to see her. Fox, is there a misunderstanding here? Xia Dong had never seen him looking for her. She was also entangled with trivial matters and had never contacted him. Bai Liyun took a deep breath. His beautiful foxy eyes narrowed as he said indifferently, Forget it. I'll be angered to death by you sooner or later if I bicker with a heartless woman like you. Hey, you're not allowed to reject my calls anymore. I didn't. Xia Dong immediately retorted. I didn't receive any calls from you at all. Bailey Yun frowned. His eyes suddenly turned cold and he stretched out his hand. Give me your phone. Xia Dong was puzzled. She took out her phone and handed it to him. He took the phone and fiddled with it for a while. Suddenly he sneered. You've blacklisted my name. No wonder you can't answer my calls. I've never done that before. Xia Dong hurriedly explained. You don't have to explain. I think I know who did it. Bailey Yun's lips curled into a sloppy smile. It seems that your fiancé is very strict with you. This Mika Keto is really going all out to get rid of her love rival. Xia Dong instinctively retorted, No, Brother Shin isn't that kind of person. Bailey Yun's heart suddenly ached. but he still had a frivolous smile on his face. He pinched a strand of her hair with his fingers and leaned over to smell it. How intimate. No wonder you two even have a child. He glanced at Xiao Bao, who was standing beside Xia Dong's feet. Fox, Xiao Bao isn't? Xia Dong wanted to explain, but she swallowed her words. Forget it. You can think whatever you want. Xiao Bao, let's go. She opened the car door and carried her son into the car. She sat in the driver's seat expressionlessly. Damn it. Why didn't she explain? Was she really going to run away with another man? Bailey Yun gritted his teeth as he watched Xia Dong drive away. He was so angry that he stomped his feet. Lil P jumped over and rubbed her furry face against Bailey Yun's arm. Bailey Yun smiled bitterly. Lil P, it seems that you're the only one who knows me best in this world. Lil P rubbed against him affectionately. He chuckled and led Lil P to the old mansion. What are you doing here? Old Madame Dowager got angry when she saw Bailey Yun's sloppy attitude. Of course she did not treat him well. Bailey Yun lowered his eyes to hide the coldness that flashed across his eyes. He stroked Lil P's furry head and said, Didn't the psychotherapist say that raising animals is good for treating autism? That's why I brought Lil P over to accompany Xiao Yi. Lil P stuck out her long tongue and stared at old Madame Dowager eagerly. She wagged her furry tail in a fawning manner. Unfortunately, she was too small to be cute even if she tried to act cute. Old Madame Dowager frowned in disdain and pointed at the huge creature in the living room. Are you sure this fellow won't scare Xiao Yi? Bailey Yun's mouth twitched. Xiao Yi has liked Lil P since she was young. Lil P also likes her very much. Grandma, do you remember when Xiao Yi shaved all of Lil P's fur when she was 3 years old? Lil P did not even make a sound. If it were anyone else, Lil P would have bitten off an arm before they could even pluck a single hair from Lil P's body. Old Madame Dowager thought about it. There was indeed such a thing. At that time the big guy had a bald butt and was depressed for a long time. She hid at home and avoided people. Butler, clean Lil P and send her to young master's room. Bailey Yun was speechless. He had just cleaned Lil P up before leaving the house. She smelled good all over, okay? Lil P, woo-woo tea to the power of tea. She despised him. Lil P also had dignity. When the servant was bathing her, she fiercely splashed the servant with water. Bailey Yun took Lil P upstairs. Xiao Yi was still sitting by the window quietly reading a book. Bailey Yun called his name but he did not respond. Lil P barked at him twice but he ignored her. Bailey Yun felt sad. When he first found out that Xiao Yi was autistic he thought it was a prank by Xiao Yi. However, a week had passed and she still did not get better. Bailey Yun started to worry. He specially brought his beloved dog over to accompany Xiao Yi. Compared to the silent Xiao Yi now, he missed the little devilish Xiao Yi very much. Bailey Yun bent down and wanted to rub Lil P's head. However, he was worried that it would agitate Lil P, so he could only give up and sit beside him. He stretched out his long arm and hugged Lil P's furry head. He chuckled softly and said, Xiao Yi, look who I brought over for you? There was no response. Lil P was disliked before and now he was being ignored again. She was unhappy. She rubbed her head against Xiao Yi's head and licked his face with her long tongue, leaving saliva all over his face. Her furry paws were not idle either. From time to time, she would bend her legs and jump around like a frog to attract his attention. Xiao Yi still did not respond. Lil P was so tired that she was panting. She lay on the ground and looked at Bailey Yun with tears in her eyes. Bailey Yun smiled and stroked her head. Lil P, you're not working hard enough. Look, Xiao Yi is still ignoring you. Ooh, don't hurt a dog like this. Hongcha 866. Chapter 132. Lil P rolled around on the floor with tears streaming down his face. Although his body was huge, he was extremely nimble. He was very careful not to bump into Xiao Yi. Otherwise, with his size, it was very likely that Xiao Yi would have been sent flying. Bang! He knocked over a chair and knocked over a pile of books. Lil P rolled around agitatedly among the books all over the floor, his fur flying everywhere. In the past, Xiao Yi loved to make him roll around on the floor. Bailey Yun carefully observed Xiao Yi's reaction. His eyes seemed to move a little. Bailey Yun hurriedly gestured to Lil P. Lil P rolled in front of Xiao Yi and rubbed his face with tears brimming in his eyes, trying to please him. Xiao Yi's eyes moved again. He slowly reached out his small hand and gently stroked Lil P's furry face. Ow ow! Lil P howled excitedly. He sang loudly and happily rubbed against the back of his hand. Bailey Yun was as excited as Lil P. He hugged Lil P's head and kissed him fiercely. His eyes were shining with joy. Lil P, good job. We'll leave Xiao Yi to you. You have to be responsible for curing him. The butler, who was guarding the door, ran away in tears. Old madam, young master's condition has improved again. On the way home, Xia Dong had already made a big decision. She was going to attend an autistic rehabilitation therapy class to learn related knowledge and help Xiao Yi recover as soon as possible. Now that she had resigned, she had a lot of time to do what she wanted to do. When Mika Keto got home, she told him her thoughts. He was silent for a while and expressed his support for her decision. After coaxing the children to sleep, Mika Keto still hadn't left. Xia Dong hesitated for a moment and said, "Brother Shin, I met Bailey Yun today. He said that he had looked for me before and even called me, but I didn't know even once." She didn't say anything else, but her eyes were full of questions. Mika Keto's expression was calm. "I was the one who got someone to stop him. I was also the one who blacklisted his number on your phone." "Why?" Xia Dong did not understand. Bailey Yun was not a bad person. There was no need to guard against him. "Because I'm worried that he'll kidnap you. He's a famous playboy." He didn't look like he was joking. Xia Dong's face darkened. "Brother Shin, I'm already an adult. I have the ability to distinguish and reason. What you're worried about will never happen." She began to wonder if the sudden disappearance of her admirers back in Japan was also because of him. He stroked her head and smiled. "Silly girl, you can also think of it as me being jealous, Brother Shin?" Xia Dong felt helpless. "Don't do such childish things anymore, okay?" He laughed. "Okay, but you have to promise me that you won't go out alone with Bailey Yun." She was speechless. "Bailey Yun is a good person. He won't do anything to me." The smile on his face widened. "You can still think of it as me being jealous?" Xia Dong wanted to scratch the wall. When did Brother Shin become so unreasonable? Without thinking, she blurted out, "Then why aren't you guarding against Bailey Han?" Mika Keto's eyes narrowed. Bailey Han, and she even had a child. How could he not know that Bailey Han was the most threatening one? However, when she was kidnapped, he needed Bailey Han's help. There was no way he could exclude Bailey Han from the two of them. As for the others, they weren't so lucky. He was even considering if he should blacklist Xiao Tianxing as well. What a terrifying possessiveness. He smiled faintly and said insincerely, "Because I know that you don't want to have anything to do with Bailey Han, so he's not worth being afraid of." Alright, he hit the nail on the head. Xia Dong and Gigai shut their mouths. After sending Mika Keto off, it was already past 10 o'clock. Xia Dong went to the children's room to take a look. The two little guys were sleeping soundly. She smiled and gently closed the door. When she returned to her room, she dialed Bailey Yun's number. "Fox, it's me, Xia Dong." Bailey Yun was drinking at the bar when a beauty came over to chat him up. He pushed her away and picked up the phone. Hearing her hesitant voice, he could imagine her hesitant look at the moment. He narrowed his eyes slightly. "Do you want to ask about Xiao Yi's condition?" Xia Dong grunted and kicked the ground with the tip of her foot. "You brought the dog over today to keep Xiao Yi company, right? How is his condition now?" His heart was filled with resentment. If it wasn't for Xiao Yi, she wouldn't have taken the initiative to contact him. Although he was unhappy, he still told her about Xiao Yi's condition in detail, including how he began to sense the outside world and took the initiative to touch Lil P. Xia Dong was overjoyed. She said nervously, "Fox, I want to see Xiao Yi. Do you have any way to help me?" Bailey Yun's tone softened a little. "You know that my grandma treats Xiao Yi like a treasure and protects him tightly. It's impossible for you to get close to him." She smiled awkwardly. "I know. Just pretend that I didn't ask." Bailey Yun's lips moved. "You wanted to say something but didn't?" Xia Dong said softly, "Fox, I didn't contact you for a long time because something happened to me. I didn't mean to ignore you. Don't be angry, okay?" "Idiot." Bailey Yun scolded softly. He wasn't angry because of this. He was angry because he didn't hear from her and had worried him for so long. They finally met, but she was still holding her and Mika Keto's son. She tried to please him in a small voice. "Go ahead and scold me. Remember to forgive me after you're done." Bailey Yun was angry and amused at the same time. When he imagined her carefully trying to please him, his heart softened. He coughed and pretended to be fierce as he shouted at her, "What's going on with you and Mika Keto? Didn't you say that you didn't want to get married? Why do you want to marry him? Or do you just not want to marry me?" He shouted a lot. Xia Dong rubbed her ears in distress. "I'll be honest. Actually, this is a misunderstanding. Brother Shin's proposal was just an act. So, you're not engaged. Bailey Yun was ecstatic. He stood up quickly, scaring the beauty who was about to approach him. Yes, I'm only telling you. Don't tell anyone else. Xia Dong dug her ears. What? Bailey Yun was very dissatisfied. Did she want to make the act with Mika Keto real? Xia Dong wanted to poke his head with her finger. Are you stupid? If your family finds out that I don't have a fiancé, they'll definitely think that I'm trying to seduce your brother. My engagement status is my protection. Bai Liyun narrowed his eyes and impatiently pushed away the beauty who was trying to strike up a conversation with him. Alright, this reason is still reasonable. But I'm warning you, you're not allowed to turn the act into reality with Beitang Shen. Even if they were to turn the act into reality, it would be with him. She wouldn't make the act real with anyone. Hearing his exasperated voice, she felt very warm. Finally, she didn't lose him as a friend. He was silent for a moment before he finally asked, Xia Xia, Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai, are they really Mika Kito's children as the newspaper said? She gripped the phone. Fox, is it important who the father of the children is? It's very important. I really want to know. He had been absent from her life for 5 years. He already felt that he couldn't catch up with her, let alone 2 children suddenly. She said softly, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. He was silent for a long time, so long that Xia Dong mistakenly thought that he had hung up the phone. He suddenly said, it's fine if you don't want to tell me. One last question. Do you love the father of the children? She thought about it seriously and said, no. Bailey Han was very good. She only felt sorry for him, not love. Bailey Yun heaved a sigh of relief. As long as she didn't love him, at least he still had a chance. The next day, Xia Dong sent Xiao Bao to the old Bailey mansion on time. She was blocked downstairs by the butler again. She sat in the living room waiting for her son. She was holding a magazine in her hand, but she couldn't read a single word. In front of the old Bailey mansion was a wide lawn and garden. Through the window, she saw servants weeding and catching insects in the garden. There was also a servant under the grape trellis, bathing the Tibetan mastiff named Daodu with a shower head. Awoo! The Tibetan mastiff's huge body suddenly jumped up. Its long fur fluttered, and the poor little maid was drenched in water. Xia Dong was speechless. She saw clearly that the little maid was bathing Daodu as if she was bathing her enemy. She was scrubbing its fur fiercely. It would be strange if it wasn't angry. It seemed that she had no experience in taking care of pets. Anyway, she had nothing to do, so she might as well help her. Xia Dong looked at the maid who was standing in the living room with her head lowered. She greeted her and walked out of the living room. The leafy grapes blocked the summer sun. Xia Dong walked to the flustered little maid and smiled kindly. Don't use so much force. It will be unhappy. The little maid was about 17 or 18 years old. Her whole body was wet from the water droplets that Daodu threw out. She touched her hair embarrassedly. The old lady asked me to wash it clean, so if you don't mind, I'll help it wash. Xia Dong rubbed Daodu's wet head. It didn't show a fierce expression like other Tibetan mastiffs. Instead, it naturally enjoyed her touch. How can I do that? You are a guest. Miss Xia, you better go back to the living room. It's okay. I have nothing to do anyway. By the way, what's your name? Xia Dong took the comb on the ground and gently combed Daodu's tangled hair. The little maid smiled shyly. My name is Yi Lu. Miss Xia, you can call me Xiao Lu. Xia Dong said as she combed Daodu's hair. Xiao Lu, before bathing the pet, you can use the comb to comb its hair. You can remove the fur balls and hair knots. You can also pick up the dirt on its body. After combing its hair, Xia Dong asked her to take a cotton swab and put it in Daodu's ears to prevent water from flowing into its ears and causing otitis media. You can also apply eye ointment to the eyes to prevent water and infection. Xia Dong used her fingers to gently apply the eye ointment. With every step, she explained the purpose of her actions once more. Yi Lu kept nodding, her face full of admiration. Miss Xia, you know so much. Have you had a pet before? Xia Dong poured a special pet bath gel onto her palm, rubbed it into foam and then applied it on Lil P's body. She smiled and said, I used to have a schnauzer when I was in Japan, but after I came back to China, I stopped having one. In fact, not only had she bathed dogs, she had also bathed horses. Wow, that's amazing. The little girl was so innocent. She looked at Xia Dong with admiration. With one teaching and the other learning, the two quickly became familiar with each other. Xia Dong found out a lot about Xiaoyi. She knew that he was a child prodigy like Xiao Bao and was a master of Go at a young age. She knew that he was serious and was like an adult. The only thing that made him look like a child was that he liked to eat sweets. She also knew that he didn't like Su Yunqian and didn't want her to be his mommy. Xiao Lu smiled embarrassedly. Miss Ya, that's all I know. I just came here not long ago and I've been helping out in the kitchen. Xia Dong smiled. I know, I'm just curious. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about this. Okay. Xiao Lu smiled and nodded. Xia Dong patted the clean Daodu. Daodu, get out of the bathtub and shake the water off your body. Daodu seemed to understand her words and stepped out of the bathtub gracefully. Xia Dong quickly pulled Xiao Lu back to prevent them from being affected by the water that Daodu threw out. In the end, Daodu seemed to be doing it on purpose. It ran to their side and shook the water off. Xia Dong quickly dodged and stepped on the steps. Xiao Lu was also dodging and bumped into her from the front. She lost her balance and fell backwards. Miss Ya, Xiao Lu hurriedly pulled her. But her hand was still a little short. Seeing that she was about to fall, Xia Dong was already prepared to use her hands to support her abdomen. But the expected fall did not happen. After a series of rapid footsteps, she was supported by a pair of strong arms around her waist. Although it was only 2 steps, suddenly slipping and falling still made her heart beat faster. Xia Dong rested for 2 seconds in the arms of the person who came and quickly stood up straight. Thank you. She turned to thank him and saw Bailey Han's dark and handsome face. He looked at her coldly. His cold lips were pursed tightly as if he was angry. She was stunned and at a loss. Thank you, can you let go of me first? His hands were still on her waist. As she turned around, their posture was extremely ambiguous. His deep eyes were filled with coldness. Aren't you pregnant? Why are you so careless? I'm sorry, she instinctively apologized but quickly realized that something was wrong. He had saved her in a critical moment. It was normal for her to thank him. Why did she have to apologize to him? Young master, it's all my fault. I accidentally bumped into Miss Ya. Please don't blame Miss Ya. Xiao Lu apologized in a panic. Bailey Han did not even look at her. He stared at Xia Dong without blinking. Have you always made Mika Keto worry like this? Add Shinwu 799 that you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.